Smooth sailing so far. I'm almost there.
Yes, I know. I get all the updates.
Made it. Safe and sound.
I know.
Well, did you know I was with USPS the whole time?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Keep your business in the know with the USPS Ground Advantage service. Visit USPS.com/in-the-know.
What's going on? Just a hair before 6 o'clock. I am Robert Walsh from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. Numbers are in. The Super Bowl featuring the Chiefs and Eagles this year drew a projected audience of around 126 million, making it the most watched Super Bowl ever, breaking last year's record of 120 million. Yesterday, 49ers owner Jed York made his intentions known, claiming that the 49ers will do, quote, everything in their power to extend Brock Purdy. After 3 seasons with long playoff runs, including an overtime loss in last year's Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs, the 49ers had a disappointing season in 2024, but with a core in place of Purdy, when stars like Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, and Fred Warner, the 49ers believe they have the talent to compete for a chance to play in the Super Bowl at home next season. And in the NBA, Luka Doncic made his Lakers debut against the Utah Jazz as LA wins 132-113. Luka finishing with 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Lakers extend their win streak to 6 games, now 32-19, only 1 game and a half behind the Nuggets for the 3 seed in the West. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning on a rainy and cold Tuesday in Nashville, Tennessee. This is RKW 615-737-1045 on day 2 of the football offseason. Ramon Foster en route, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling in studio. Robert Walsh is our producer, and we stream the show live on 1045 The Zone TV. There is a major risk that the Titans might have to take in the NFL draft. We're going to talk about that coming up at 7:20 this morning. Cam Newton has given Travis Hunter some advice on what it's like being the number 1 overall pick. We'll react to that as well in hour 3. Plus, is Travis Hunter even a fit for the Titans defensive scheme, and how much does fit matter. Lots to discuss on a Tuesday morning. We got college hoops. We've got football news with Austin Price in 20 minutes. Kayla, there is no off-season on this radio program. Good morning.
There is no off-season, Will. You're exactly right. Good morning to you. And no matter what, Will, because we love to talk about hoops. We love to talk about other things sometimes. But football, let's just admit, it does rule everything when it comes to the NFL specifically. There's always storylines, and especially when the Titans have the number 1 overall pick.
There's no doubt. There is no doubt. It is the 24/7, 365 number one story. So, of course, lots on the NFL draft this morning as Ramon Foster has entered the building.
All right.
And will enter the studio in a matter of seconds. I wonder, should we just keep... I don't want to just put Robert Walsh's stuff in here, but like the treadmill walking pad might just be a good punishment for anything.
It could be.
Moving forward.
It could be. I actually... Will, I'm going to be honest with you. I felt like I got a head start on my day yesterday because I had already burned like 200 and something calories by 10 o'clock that I know of, you know.
Fair.
And then once I did that afternoon workout, I contemplated it, but I did it. And then I felt even better for the entire day that I walked for 2 hours and already knocked off half of my workout.
Well, I worked out before the show last Friday, and it is as alert and as good as I have felt doing this job ever, literally ever, in nearly 3 years of doing it. Ramon Foster worked out this morning, which is part of the reason why he is walking in at 6:03 and not his customary time. Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Not your own fault. There were extenuating
that's rain
circumstances.
and nervousness.
No, I know. It's bad weather out there right now.
Yeah, man. I heard Will mention that just now about the early morning workouts. They suck to get up to, but like whenever you get going, your day is complete.
Yeah.
Only caveat is at about 8:45, it's time to be cool for the rest of the night. Like at nighttime is what I mean. But
for sure,
it gets you going. It pretty much makes you feel like you've just leapfrogged into the day. Like there's no reason not to actually have a good day at that point, which is also why I feel like college teams now have gotten student athletes to like start practicing
early
in the morning. That, and of course, if you up going to practice, you can't miss class.
Exactly.
So there's always that too.
Because we've tried to actually get some players on that are Vols, but they practice so early that it really interferes with our time that we're doing our show. So.
Yeah. It's not that they don't like us. They just can't join us.
Exactly. They're doing their workouts.
By the way, I know we always do weather in the morning because we early, and usually morning people are the first ones to get dogged. We just are, whether it's snow, whether it's rain, whether it's like overnight activity. Y'all, slow down. I had a car cut me off this morning for no particular reason at all. I'm talking about right next to my bumper just to get in front of me because they were late too. So it's crazy ponding coming. Well, it's everywhere.
It's that ponding that'll get you because you can't see it when it's this dark out and it's raining pretty heavily.
I ran into 2 accidents this morning. Serious ones it look like too. So y'all be cool on the roads, man. Get there slowly.
Yeah.
How's everyone's Monday night?
Good.
Solid. Yeah. Solid. I checked your favorite team box score last night too.
The Lakers?
Yeah.
Got a W.
Yeah, they did.
Which I learned from Robert Walsh this morning.
They did.
Luka Doncic did play.
He did play, and the Stars were in the 20 points. I feel like Dalton connect 17.
Yeah.
Kept it professional.
They're like, thank goodness we kept him.
Kept it professional. Well, apparently it was something that Charlotte did.
That was wild, by the way, that whole thing.
Well, the Hornets are combating that. They are saying that it's something L.A. pulled out from their side. So this will be – apparently they approached the NBA commissioner and was like, we think this is fishy. They had since Saturday, and after 2 days you revoked the trade. So I don't think they could be like, nope, send him back. It's a real trade. I don't think they can do that, but who knows?
It's ugly. Well, with that many moving parts, too, it's like 3 teams involved with that, numerous players. Like it was almost NBA trades are dumb like that, though. But.
So at least though, Will and everybody else, I think Jackson and Lucas are also Lakers fans. You guys are shifted back to the Lakers because you didn't shift to the Charlotte Hornets. They did.
No, I was not going to.
Right.
They shifted to
They shifted to the
bad
Hornets.
pro teams in my life. I don't need another one.
Right.
What? Oh, my gosh.
But now it's all good. Everybody's back in the Lake Show.
I'm so out of tune with the NBA right now. Just I wait till like after All-Stars #1, but I didn't realize VFL Grant Williams is also hurt, too. Had no idea.
Tore his ACL.
Had no idea.
Back in November, and the broadcasters thought he was flopping.
How come really?
It was like a viral clip.
I bet they feel bad now. Jeez.
Oh, man. Well, So much for me keeping up with the NBA. Really not worth it.
I think it's crazy. There's a league where the off-court stuff and the off-field stuff is a bigger story sometimes than what actually happens once those teams make those moves.
Mm-hmm.
They got a problem on their hands though. I don't know if it is too many games. I feel like the anticipation of the season in college for college men's and college women's basketball games is to get to 20 wins. These jokers are trying to get to 60 wins on the season. That's a whole lot of ball. And yes, they're paid for it. And I'm not sure if they need to lower the amount of games being played to increase the competition, because it was fascinating. Who was it? Marcus Allen. Mm-hmm. On 3HL had a very interesting conversation. Now, he's old school, and some of the NBA legends, Charles Barkley, Jordan, Magic, those guys voice this type of stuff. You're paid to compete. Go compete. Go do the thing that you're paid to do and show pride in it. And I'm shocked that the Marcus Allen conversation didn't get any bigger, because they were talking about the running backs on 3HL and the year Saquon had and Derek had.
I remember listening to that.
And he said, running backs, blame yourselves.
Yeah, he was almost kind of dogging the running backs of this age, being they get so much more help and they're making themselves irrelevant.
Yeah, they're making themselves irrelevant. 2 plays and they're out. They got a third down back. He was man, he ran 6 straight plays in a row before coming out a time or two. He said, get your offseason conditioning up. Now, probably 14-game season for him. And, the athlete is just different.
It's just different. And you're going up against bigger and badder competition.
Yes, 100%.
Badder in a good way.
So that was a fascinating approach.
It was interesting.
I didn't think it was old man screaming at the sky type of thing, but it was hey, make yourself valuable. If you are a runner, make yourself also a passer. Pass catcher. Make yourself also a third down back too, because that's what a lot of teams have, is the ability to take you off the field because you can't protect. I was listening to podcasts this weekend too, and I was listening to Nick Saban, and he was talking about Derrick Henry had no idea how to pass protect in high school. He said, Derrick, what are you doing? Pretty much Derrick is having a bad day in practice his freshman year, and said he felt the need to go talk to him, and said Derrick told him, hey, all I ever did in high school was have them turn around and toss me the football. I never in my life pass protected at all. And said, Derrick asked him, can y'all just please have some patience with me?
Yeah.
And that was one very responsible and mature by Derrick Henry at a young age. But
he also learned to be more of a pass catcher when he came to the Titans.
He
worked on that and is still, obviously, it's not a natural thing for Derrick Henry, but
definitely fascinating on the approach of the athletes in this era, for sure.
It's different.
NBA, Will, I'm glad you got your team back.
Me too.
Yeah. I'll start watching when the regular season starts in the playoffs.
There we go.
Pretty much.
That's when we got a little time for it.
That's what they marketed as.
Yeah.
But, I'm team watching good ball, so until they really start doing that, nothing's relevant right now.
Can I put a PSA out for other like-minded individuals? I feel like this is a pretty big week if you have a significant other. If you haven't done your Valentine's Day stuff, you need to make plans to. You need to figure it out.
I agree.
Wow, you guys are on this.
The dates are closing in. Well,
it's the 11th. I don't know if this is on it.
I was, right. I feel like if you were on it,
would have been
last week. Done. No, I was informed that I don't have to do anything big, but I have to do something. So I'm trying to get
worst.
that. I'm trying to get ahead of that. But I also, in trying to get ahead of it, I have a new business proposition for everyone involved.
I love it when you have business propositions.
Okay, so I'm perusing Facebook Marketplace to see if there's anyone else's poor sap's wife that is getting rid of something that is of the luxury variety, and I had an idea. Who are the people that peruse Facebook Marketplace?
I'll look.
Older people?
The broke individuals who are looking to capitalize off someone else's misfortune like myself. So
That's
here's what we do.
descriptive.
Valentine's Day is coming up. We buy a bunch of fake luxury purses, wallets, and then everybody's going to be like, oh, man, look at this Louis Vuitton. I'm going to get her this. This is only $300, but it's fake as hell. See, so we unload all our inventory on these poor saps that waited 4 days before Valentine's Day. They're like, oh, I'm going to get a discount. I'm going to get my wife something nice. No, you ain't neither. It's going to be right off Chinatown. So I'm saying if anybody's got to hook up have you ever been to New York? I used to.
It's so much fun.
If you
I feel like you're in a drug deal, but it's really not that illegal.
If you got a girlfriend, go to Chinatown, hook her up with a nice little walletette, get a wallet, a purse, and it'd be $40. So if anybody's got to hook up on some fake designer, let me know.
I know some folks.
And we can split this thing down the middle.
This is Ramon conversation.
It was so fun doing that in high school, like going to New York City and you go to Chinatown and you walk up to you just walk up to a guy. You got any Ray-Bans? And then he'll go, follow me.
Oh,
and then you follow him one block around the corner. And then he takes you to another place, like a little storefront, and he just goes, $40. And you go, I only have 30. And he'll be like, fine. And then he just hands them to you, and then you give the money, and it's like, thanks. And then he walks the other way, and you go your separate ways. It's the shadiest thing, pun intended, I've ever been a part of.
That's how Mexico is, too. Like, when I went down there and used to speak, the language, and you could barter, and you felt, like, so accomplished when you were able to get it down, like, $10,
Their price point is, like, bottom of the barrel anyway.
Yeah,
so
I know,
like,
right?
As long as you give them $5
It took them $1.50 to make those.
I love when you're walking up on those people and they have like their little throw blanket or a tarp thrown down with all their wares out front. And like none of that stuff is any good. Yeah. None of that stuff's what you're looking for. So you always have to ask like, where's the good stuff at?
Yeah.
Come on, hook me up with some good stuff.
When I was younger, we went to D.C., and at the time, I didn't know I like watches like that. Man, Fossil and Tag Heuer had me in a chokehold. You hear me? I was getting fake Fossil watches and a Tag Heuer. I thought I was a man until that thing got discolored about a month later.
The gold's coming off.
You strike me as a G-Shock guy as a kid.
I still got G-Shock. I got the real ones.
Not shocked about that. 615-737-1045. Coming up, an early visit with VolQuest's Austin Price. Tennessee busy at work on the recruiting trail for 2026 in football, plus a big one tonight for Rick Barnes' team in Corrupt Arena. That and more with VolQuest's Austin Price next. What's up? It's Will Bowling. To all my facility managers out there, how are your plumbing fixtures doing? Do you have any clogs in a sink or two? Hey, maybe there's an annoying leak. You got inconsistent hot water when you need it the most. And facility managers always have a list of things that aren't working the way they're exactly supposed to. Well, no matter your plumbing problem, the team at Lee Company, they are here to help. For over 80 years, their expert technicians have been here to make your life easier and keep your place of business running efficiently. Think about that. 80 years of doing business. They do business the right way here in Middle Tennessee. So available 24/7, 365. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or contact them online at leecompany.com. Again, that's 24/7, 365. Whenever you got an issue, Lee Company is there at 615-567-1000 or online at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. The glass breaks early this morning on RKW as we talk Vols every Tuesday with our good friend Austin Price of VolQuest and on 3, Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling as Austin joins us now talking football, talking staff changes in Tennessee, Kentucky as well tonight. Austin, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you doing?
We are good. Good to hear you early this morning. As Josh Heupel looks to make a hire as we continue to monitor the special teams coach and outside linebackers, all these things. Austin, are there names starting to emerge on who Josh Heupel could meet with for a special teams position, possibly?
Yeah, I believe he has spoken with T.J. Weist, the former special teams coach for the Ravens, for the special teams job. That was Evan Crabtree, who's on staff, is someone that Coach Heupel's very comfortable with. That I think will get a look as well. Could they potentially be a tandem and do it together? I think that's also an option here. Remember, there are no staff limits as far as how many coaches you have on. There's just the number of coaches you can have out on the road in recruiting. And so you're not ever going to worry about, sending your special teams coach out. Most of that stuff's done at camp where you evaluate kickers and punters and that type of thing. And then as far as outside linebackers, I will continue to maintain that Coach Shop, in my opinion, is in line for the bump to get promoted into that role. And he's done a fantastic job recruiting and being a real asset for this staff for the last several years. And it's only natural of all the potential. Coach Heupel's been a guy that has promoted from within the last several years. If there was ever a case for that to be the case, it would actually be this one more than any of the others. With just kind of how Coach Shop's went out and earned it as a recruiter. And remember, he was out on the road recruiting all of January when Coach Eckler was not out on the road before Coach Eckler left for Nebraska. So such an asset that the players really gravitate towards.
VolQuest Austin Price with us. Austin, it is interesting. Josh Heupel tends to do this and talk to people from different backgrounds, maybe people he's not worked with before. What do you think he wants to learn, and what is the thought process behind talking with people in the NFL and trying to gain that different perspective?
Well, as far as T.J. Weist, he's coached in college for several years. For the last handful of years, though, he's been with the Ravens. And I think you're just picking everybody's brain. You're trying to see, how would they fit on my staff, gain ideas, just talk football, talk strategy, see how he would translate to the college game or translate back into the college game since he's been here before. And so, he did that, with the tight ends job when he hired Alec Evelyn. He talked to Jeff Ferris, who at the time, the tight ends coach at UCLA. Of course, he's from Knoxville, played at Knoxville Catholic, then played at Duke, and now the head coach at Austin Peay. And then when he promoted Kelsey Pope, he did the same thing. He talked to former Tennessee assistant David Johnson, who was at Florida State. He talked to, a couple other coaches and interviewed a couple other coaches. So always just, talk. Even if he thinks somebody promotes, I think he's always talking to potential candidates, because you never know, when a job may come back open down the line, and that guy impressed me that time we interviewed him. Let's go and give him a see if he'd be interested in coming to this time. So I think the more people you talk to, knowledge is power, and in this instance, the more people you talk to, the better you're going to be.
Austin Price of VolQuest and on 3 with us this morning. Austin, on the side of getting his staff together, the spring is right around the corner too. Winter training is going on also. I saw where Matt Rule said recently, man, he don't know if they're going to do a traditional spring game, and it's simply because it's not just tampering anymore. It's just absolute free, open, common market because of what you see on these televised spring games. Do you think Tennessee and others will get to this point to where we might just have OTAs or minicamp when it comes to spring ball in college?
Yeah, I do think we're probably headed to a spot where there are no more spring games. Now, how quickly does it get here for an SEC school? I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, I know they'll have spring games this year, and let's be honest. I mean, when was the last time Tennessee really showed anything in the spring game?
Yeah.
I mean, the spring game, you have a couple of touchdowns, and then, you put in the backups, and they just kind of run around, and then, back in your day, it was, David Yancey, Kirsten Biggers.
Yeah.
The last handful of years, Jack Jancic was making a ton of plays in spring games. So I mean, like, that's normally what you see. So I understand what Coach Rule's saying, but maybe they just go out and play their starters a bunch, and Nebraska and do it differently. I don't remember the last time where you played a starter a bunch, outside of a drive or two in the spring game that would, give you any kind of real tape.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I absolutely hated it, just so you know. All I was waiting for, Austin, was the fourth quarter or the second half of that and get to the party at the frat house after the fact, okay? I just need that to just be one of the things we need moving forward. Just keep everybody healthy and keep them off the market.
The statute of limitations is passed, Ron. You can tell some of these stories from when you broke the rules.
Brett Hubbs said he brought up the think card the other day, Ramon. We don't need to bring out the think card again, do we?
He did, man. But, hey, it's like that sometimes. Also, with that being said, man, like, as far as Nico goes, what's the expectation for him going into this year? Because I feel like he was unfairly judged, or the expectation on what he needed to do last year, just simply based upon, I feel like everybody that's after Hendon is chasing Hendon right now, man. Do you expect him to be more involved in the offense, being able to check or go down the field or across the middle more this upcoming spring and fall?
Yeah, obviously I think they have to do some things differently. I think, the staff has looked in the mirror after the Ohio State game and, said, where can we improve? What tweaks can we make? How can the offense look and be different? What can we do to maybe, free some of our guys up? Everybody compares them to 22. That's not really fair. The way Tennessee was defended in 22 and how teams are defending them now are two totally different things. And, as far as the expectations for Nico, sadly, in this world when everybody knows what a college kid is making in NIL, at least they have thoughts about what they're making, for some of these kids. In Nico's case, because the number got leaked out there, everybody kind of knows what he's making. Mm-hmm. And that's probably where it becomes unfair, because the expectations, you can't slow them down.
Right.
Like when everybody knows you're making the money that he's making, everybody automatically goes into, well, he needs to play like this. I mean, his stats last year were solid. In my opinion, he did not lose you any games. Now, as I said on the Nation Sunday night, I'm not sure he won you any games in terms of just going out and taking over and being a one-man show. Some of his throws did win you the Alabama game, right? The pass to Dante Thornton, the pass to Chris Brazzell, those were dimes. And so you started to see that more as the season went along. I think you need him to take the step in the right direction, whether it's using the middle of the field, whether it's using the running backs out of the backfield, whatever tweak you make. I think Nico's got incredible promise. He flashes big when he flashes. They just got to see more consistency out of him. If that can happen and Tennessee can take a step as an offense, then all of a sudden things, I think, morph dramatically for this team to beat Georgia at home for the first time under Josh Heupel, or win on the road in Gainesville or Tuscaloosa for the first time since 2003.
Austin Price, our good friend at VolQuest, joining us a little bit earlier this morning, talking football. And let's transition to the hardwood. Austin, Tennessee winning 3 straight since that loss to Kentucky. They're back up in Lexington tonight. What has to be different for this Vols team for them to get the dub?
Well, they have to make shots. Our shooting percentage as a quartet was probably just about as good as Tennessee was in that first meeting. And it's still to win, right? Tennessee's got to bring the defense. Kentucky made a ton of shots against Tennessee in Knoxville. Tennessee's got to be elite defensively tonight, and then they've got to make shots. If they can shoot it, they don't have to shoot it as well, but if they can just shoot it close to what they've done the last 3 halves, back half of Missouri, and then the entire game against Oklahoma, this is a Tennessee team that's going to be uber hard to beat down the stretch here, because when the defense is 90% of the time going to be there, and if they can make shots, to marry that together, man, this team is going to be really, really tough to beat from here till the end of the season. So, I think it's just make shots and then, play better defense and force Kentucky into some rush shots tonight in Lexington.
So Zakai Ziegler and Igor Milicic, obviously when they missed that Florida game, still able to get business done. But after that game, I mean, these guys have combined for 67 points, 21 rebounds, 25 assists. Like, what has happened with these two in particular, Austin, that's maybe sparked something?
I think it's just seeing your other teammates, knock down shots, play well without you. And, Igor's been slowly coming along. The shot's been slowly getting there. And I think he's been a little bit more deliberate in finding his shot at times and being aggressive to drive to the hole. And with Z, I mean, he just seeing some shots fall down. I mean, the 4-4 against Missouri and then 2 or 3 against Oklahoma, I think, from 3. Obviously, what he's able to do when he penetrates, whether it's finishing or distributing, that's something he always has been able to do. But when he starts consistently knocking down the outside shot, then that morphs everything for him because they have to respect it so much that it allows his ability to penetrate to be even better.
VolQuest Sauce Price with us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Austin, is it fair to say that Felix Okpara might be the most improved player in one season under Rick Barnes? It is incredible. You look at him in November to now. I can't remember a guy that got this much better in this short amount of time.
Yeah, he continues to improve a lot, right? I mean, he's still not there. You got 2 games ago. He missed a ton of bunnies in the first half. And he played much better in the second. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, again, this is a guy who is continuing to develop on the offensive side of the ball. He loves to block shots. He loves to defend. He loves to rebound. And if you can, he's got that kind of, I'm gonna date myself. A little Kevin Willis, little baby jump hook there. And when he's able to knock that down consistently, I think that does change him a lot. And so you know what you're going to get defensively and in rebounding when he can give you just a little bit more than just the dunks. I mean, catching the lobs is easy, right? Like that's well, it's not easy for me or you or anybody else. Right. For him, it's easy. So, like when he's able to add to that with a little bit of offensive repertoire, I think that, that goes into the improvement that you're seeing. Again, that's something that Rick Barnes and them constantly work on. Like Rick Barnes is big on changing, just kind of your technique on your shot. I mean, remember how much he did for Kevin Punter?
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to see him spend 3 days with Talasia Cooper of the Lazy Ball.
Wow.
I mean, she shoots the ball so flat, and by the way, she's next week's guest on Vulcan Confidential, and
nice.
She talked about that. She talked about, how her shot is flat. How, she's constantly trying to get more arch on the ball. So, I mean, like, I think when you're Okpara and you've been, a little bit weak as an offensive player, as an offensive threat, just to get, 1 or 2 moves that you can count on goes a long way. And that little kind of baby hook that he's got going has been something that I think has been effective for him.
It's a great point on Talasia Cooper. It looks a lot like Jordan Bone's 3-point shot when he was at Tennessee a few years back as well. Austin, as Tennessee continues to battle for some big basketball recruits, and Nate Ament, kind of the white whale of this class, and Chance Mallory, the big-time point guard, Zaire Collins, is everyone there working under the assumption that Rick Barnes will be able to coach them? Is that still the conclusion that this is not it for Rick Barnes? Because I know there are some people and some fans that raised their eyebrows a bit when he mentioned that he might not still be doing this if it wasn't for Zakai Ziegler.
Yeah, I think, I think the natural notion off of that comment made people think, well, this is it, right? I don't think he meant it that way. I think he meant, like, I might have got out a few years ago, but this has kind of reinvigorated me. Having Zakai has reinvigorated me. He's adapted. Look, Roy Williams and Jay Wright and so many others of his era have not adapted to the NIL transfer portal world. Rick Barnes, who I would have told you 5 years ago, there's no way in the world he would adapt to this, has adapted beautifully to this. And he's really, just kind of run with it. I think he enjoys the fact of, like, he's recruiting older players who have developed and been able to kind of mold the clay when it's already formed versus, like, when it's a brand new batch. And so, like, he's done a really good job with the kids in the transfer portal and this era. And so I think he's recruited as if he's going to be back. And, like, I think he wouldn't be putting the amount of time into some of the players they're recruiting if I think he thought, I'm out at the end of the year. So, again, as of right now, it certainly feels like to me there's a strong chance he is back for next season.
Austin, on the football side of things with recruiting too, how is Coach Heupel and his staff doing with the in-state guys here? I see Joel Wyatt is one of those guys, man, at the top of the class here in the state. Tyreek King's another commit. How are they with the state talent so far this year in this 26 class?
Doing solid, right? I mean, like, Joel is a really good player there for Webb School in Bell Buckle. Tremendous athlete who could play a number of different positions. Tennessee's obviously, already got Gabe Osenda in this class. Mm-hmm. To be able to get, the big tight end out of Nashville.
Carson Sneed.
Also a huge get. Yep. To be able to get him, just huge to get in this class. So, like, Tennessee's done a nice job with certain players. They've got some, I think some work to do on guys like Caden Harris, DB out of West Tennessee. But they continue to do a really nice job of getting the players they want in this state. Now, are they perfect? No, you're never going to be perfect. I always laugh every time a coach is hired. They talk about building the fence or building the wall around the state for recruiting. And, that's just not realistic. It's not realistic for Georgia to say that or Alabama to say that about Alabama or whatever. So the biggest thing is getting near everybody that you want to get and not having anybody that defects hurts you in terms of, like, how many times did, in 2018, 2019, were you looking around going, man, I wish Tennessee had T. Higgins. Man, I wish Tennessee had Amari Rogers. Man, I wish Tennessee had Tyrell Dodson. Man, I wish Tennessee had Jacoby Stevens. It happened a lot.
Yeah.
And you don't have that currently going around college football. No one's sitting around going, man, Tennessee missed out on this player. Like, that's not been happening the last several years, and I think that's good.
He is Austin Price of VolQuest at On 3, joining us early this morning. You got Ethan Davis on the Vol Club Confidential. Check that out at VolQuest.com. And a tease for Talasia Cooper. That's Ramon's girl. That is a Talasia Cooper household. So they will certainly be tuned into that over there.
You're going to want to watch the Talasia Cooper.
Listen.
It is fantastic. In fact, all I will say is 2 words. Tune in, Xavier Leggett.
Ooh.
Xavier Leggett.
Oh, nice.
Really? Interesting.
Nice. All right. Well, she's a South Carolina girl, so that checks out.
Austin, listen, man, you said you dated yourself as far as age, man. I felt cool when Talasia followed me back on IG, okay? Just so you know.
Goodness.
She is a Foster representative in our house. Like, I'm telling you, I'm like her.
I was going to say, I'm sure Keisha loves her.
I'm like, yeah, 100%. I'm almost like unk to her. She don't know it yet. But, like, that's just the way I am. Like, we cool like that, Austin.
Well, here's what I would tell you to do. All the people at 104.5 The Zone need to go out and sell a segment called Foster Kids. And they're basically just kids that Ramon is a big fan of, and he can highlight one a week, and we can have it brought to you by somebody there in Nashville. Foster Kids coming up on Ramon K. Lidwell every Thursday at 8:20.
Austin, that was almost the name of our show.
I know. We joked about that when we named the show originally. I love it. Well, now we cut a promo. There's your open right there of Austin voicing it. So
it is. It's Talasia and Kay Phillips, just so you know. See, I'm and both of them follow me on Instagram. This is cool.
I love it.
Real quick, Austin.
VolQuest, Austin Price, Tuesday mornings here at the show. Thank you, Austin.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Austin.
it, Austin.
Appreciate you.
All right, there's Austin Price. Waking up early with us this morning. 615-737-1045. We got TV numbers from the Super Bowl. I will react to those next.
Dude, did you know that up to 50% of the air you breathe in your homes comes from your crawl space? Well, have you ever looked in your crawl space? I get it. Most of us don't even want to know what's in there, but moisture in your crawl space can create unhealthy issues that can make their way into the air you breathe every day in your home. The Shimon Fawcett, this is where United Structural Systems can help you out. USS has been keeping homes dry and stable in Middle Tennessee since 1994, so you know this. They aren't going anywhere, all right? Help control moisture and musty smells with mold treatment and crawl space encapsulation that comes with a USS guarantee. That's right. Encapsulation helps reduce high humidity in your crawl space. It also helps deter mold and mildew and protects your crawl space from pests and wood rot. Turn your crawl space into a healthy space. Reach out to the folks that I know that are always there for your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, man. The website is USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. You can call them the old-fashioned way, 615-488-7855, United Structural Systems.
Tuesday morning, RKW 104.5 The Zone, wrapping up the first hour of the show. Take a look at some hoops headlines coming up in 15 minutes, including in Lexington, where Kentucky is going to be without the guy that essentially won them the Tennessee game the first time around. We'll dive into that coming up here in just a few. 615-737-1045. Fox Sports is projecting major television numbers from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
A record average audience of 126 million U.S. viewers across television and streaming platforms, televised by Fox, Fox Deportes, and Telemundo, streamed on Tubi, as well as the NFL's digital platform. So some context to why this number is so big. So Fox's projections Monday included Nielsen's early numbers and streaming data from Tubi and the NFL. According to Fox, the audience peaked at 135.7 million in the second quarter. Some of that increase, though, is because now they are taking more samples out there. So there is a change in the way views are counted. This is the first year Nielsen is measuring out-of-home viewers for all states but Hawaii and Alaska. It was previously just the top 44 media markets, which covered 65% of the country. So a little bit of context, but still, if you guys ever wonder why we talk so much NFL on this show, or you guys ever wonder why does everyone just talk about football so much?
Yeah.
This is why.
It's in the numbers, right? And just to, give you a kind of a base of how many people are in this country and then how many people watch. Like there's about 335 million almost people in this country. And we had 127 is what they're estimating tuned in to watch the Super Bowl.
Some of it, right?
Which, at least watch some of it, which is mind-blowing. I was just looking at the NBA Finals last year, and obviously that's a longer series, right? So people watch over time. But that final game between the Celtics and Mavericks, they averaged 12.2 million viewers. So it's a big difference, too, when you're stretching it out a bit. I get it. But that's just the drastic number in terms of what people do for the Super Bowl compared to another sport like the NBA.
And then someone probably complain, well, why they're, managing or looking at out-of-home views and stuff like that. It's because the NFL ain't going to lose. Like, it's just that simple. They've paid to have their, their game streamed on YouTube TV and, I think Tubi, wherever else you can get, Roku, wherever you get your TV at, and people stream on their phones too, and they figure this thing out. That's why the league numbers are going up so high. That's why salaries are going up so high. And this is why also at any point in time, you'll hear anybody that represents the NFL say they protect the shield. Yeah. This is why right here, like, it's so much that goes into it. And like for all the people that I see on social media, and I know social media is not real at all. The haze. I thought about it in hindsight after I saw this article yesterday. I was like, that should have been my "you're not that guy." My guy that does that, you're not. So those people that say they're not going to watch the Super Bowl. It's like, no, you're not. You're watching the Super Bowl. Like somebody, like you as a mom or dad might not be watching, but Junior is. Okay.
We had plenty of listeners of this show who are like, well, I'm just not going to watch it. I'm tired of these teams. Yeah, you watched it.
Yeah.
You watched it.
You watched it.
Right. Whether it be for just seeing what goes on outside of the football game, or if it is still, while the commercials I think are not as good as they used to be, if it's for that aspect, like even it's so funny watching on social media something like TikTok, and I know not all of you have that, but it is entertaining to see some of these younger people with their grandparents watching like the Super Bowl halftime show, and just some of the things like the reaction you're getting out of like the grandma and grandpas, and the kids are dancing in the background. It's everybody kind of tunes in for a different reason, I feel like.
Absolutely.
So this is the second straight year the Super Bowl reached a record audience. The Chiefs win over the Niners, average 123.7 million. Numbers up again. The gap between viewership of the college football playoff championship and the Super Bowl is growing. How does college football close the gap?
How do they close it? We talked about it a little bit. Minimize it, right? Maybe compress it somehow and don't have it over a long, like there's 2 weeks between each game, it seems, or 10 days, it seems like you got to keep the crowd engaged. You also, of course, a destination of having it on campus sometimes might not be the best for certain people or the schools that you have hosting. And it's also the seating of it too. Like have it in a way to where true seating of teams that are good get to host games. So it's a fascinating approach to what college has to do. And on top of that, it's just so top heavy in college.
Yeah.
Like,
well, so is the NFL.
So is the NFL in a way too.
You
I
just
was just
choose
going to
again,
say,
and we still that's the whole point. Like, I don't think the fatigue of it being the same teams over and over matters as much as we think it does. I think we get more tired of that because we talk about it as a job every day.
Go ahead.
I'm just being realistic, coming from people who don't really like maybe watch football every single day. The college game is still like football. It's all about football.
Yeah.
It's all about like those two teams in the moment. It's not about the commercials. It's not about who's performing at halftime at the college football championship. Maybe if they want to grow their numbers, they start to bring in the entertainment aspect of it. I know there's not a lot of people who want that to happen, but that's why the Super Bowl is what it is.
Different fan bases.
That's what they do.
I don't think the college fan cares as much about stuff like that.
I mean, in order to get certain eyes on it, there might have to be an entertainment side.
Will be what it is.
That's what I'm saying. There might have to be some entertainment to it, as far as like, okay, well, if it's in Atlanta, what concerts are you having surrounded? There's a lot that goes into it. I just also think too, there's such a loyalty to Clemson, to Tennessee, to where you have in the state of Nashville, Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama, Vanderbilt are Titans fans too. And that's also that part of it, too. It's like college is such a regional thing. Like in Alabama, there may have been a huge dip in viewership because they don't have a pro team that's invested in it. And like their mindset is RT Willie. Like they don't care about nothing but the Tide.
Well, Birmingham is usually the number one TV market for the championship every year.
Might have been a bad example of it.
They only care about college football in that state.
Well, as far as what the product is, the college football product I think is good. It's just that it's such a nobody really cares about Notre Dame except for that fan base, and that fan base relatively is smaller than most.
Well, I do think
NFL teams.
The college football game is not as good for television as the NFL is. Like week to week, halftime is way longer. You get more commercial breaks. The game is longer because of how much the clock stops. It is not as good of a television product. But in the race to make more money, that doesn't matter to college football because if you can sell more ad inventory and add a 2-minute warning and have more breaks and less football, you're going to go that route. I think they've got that identity crisis of how much do we care about actually making it a good television product, or how much do we care about making money off the television product?
Well, the thing is,
those two are going in different directions.
Does NCAA need a real commissioner like Goodell? Because one thing that the Super Bowl does have, they've made it a world game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a world game.
Yeah, but I don't think you're ever going to make college football a world game. Like you need to double down on what makes you college football, not what makes you more like the NFL.
That's the problem. They have an identity crisis. College football has a serious identity crisis.
They do.
Ever since the NCAA started to slip and do whatever they do, which is nothing, and now NIL is crazy. Like there is a true identity, and that's part of it. I definitely think that's part of it.
I will agree with that. There's no like collective branding of NCAA football other than, hey, we got a college football playoff right now. I just don't think the number's going to be close. I just think that the product needs to stay good, and that's all they need to worry about.
615-737-1045. Somebody needs to explain the basketball AP poll to me like I'm 5. We'll look at some weird rankings from the Associated Press and preview Tennessee and Kentucky for you tonight. Coming up next.
What's going on? 7:02. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Numbers are in. The Super Bowl featuring the Chiefs and Eagles this year drew a projected audience of 126 million viewers, making it the most watched Super Bowl ever, breaking last year's record of 120 million. 49ers owner Jed York made his intentions known yesterday, claiming the 49ers will, quote, do everything to extend Brock Purdy. For 3 seasons with long playoff runs, including an overtime loss in last year's Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs, the 49ers have had a disappointing season in 2024, but with the core existing of Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, and Fred Warner, the 49ers believe that they will have the talent to compete for a chance to play in the Super Bowl at home next season. And in the NBA, Luka Doncic made his Lakers debut against the Utah Jazz as LA wins 132-113. Luka finishing with 14 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. The Lakers extend their win streak to 6 games, now 32-19, only a game and a half behind the Nuggets for the 3 seed in the West. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW 104.5 The Zone rolls into hour number 2, 7 a.m. in beautiful Music City, USA, although it does not feel or look very beautiful this morning. Be safe if you're out there on the roads. They are driving underwater at a lot of places around Middle Tennessee. But if you are not at the wheel, then use those dialing fingers to chime in with us at 615-737-1045. We are wide open for the remainder of the show. We already talked with Austin Price earlier this morning, including about Tennessee and Kentucky. Tonight at 6 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone, courtesy of the Vol Network. The Vols look for a little bit of revenge on the Cats in Corrupt Arena.
Yes, we need that, man. I got bodied by a kid this past weekend, too, because of that Kentucky loss, man. Wore a hoodie over in my house.
That's what you were
saying. And he
saying.
dogged me out because he said, we beat y'all in Knoxville, and that's nothing I can say. I like returning favors to people like this, and I need for the Vols to have their mind right and go beat Kentucky. It's officially hate day for me, okay?
Absolutely, yeah. Since that loss, obviously, they were able to rebound a little bit at home, and now there's nothing like a good get-back game. And it is always hard to beat a team, twice in a season. So this will be interesting up there. And I do believe, and I don't think we asked Austin Price about this, but Felix Okpara, which we did talk about, is probable for this game. So looks like he'll play, but there is a possibility.
Yeah, he'll play.
Yeah, 100%. I hope so anyway, for sure. His ability to protect the rim, though, man, is elite right now. I love watching him. It's going to be necessary, but, for the Vols, it's going to be even bigger for them to protect around the perimeter. What Kentucky did in Knoxville, man, being able to just shoot like it was an ocean is something that they cannot allow this time around. Defense has to play a part in this one, but not just that. To not foul also. There's going to be something going to that place. You know it's going to be toxic. You know they're going to be lights out in there, and it's going to be loud as ever. This needs to be one of those games where defense aggressively but lightly plays a huge part in this game. Can they outbody Kentucky going into Corrupt Arena?
You got to play your game if you're the Vols, right?
You do.
Because I think last time they faced Kentucky a couple weeks ago, they kind of willed them into playing the Kentucky way. And you saw that especially down the stretch, trying to take all those threes that night it was not hitting at all. So you've got to go in to Lexington tonight, and you have to play the Vol way.
What we don't need is Zakai going 1 for 11 from 3.
That was part of it, yeah.
Jackson Robinson not going to play tonight. He was the backup point guard filling in for the injured Lamont Butler, who tore up Tennessee in the first game in Knoxville. So he'll be out, but it looks like Butler will be back. Of course, still no Kirk Kriisa for Kentucky as they continue to play without him. They have been banged up all season because Kriisa has not really been available to them at all. this year, and he was going to be a really, really big player for them and one of the biggest agitators in college basketball that, hasn't been able to agitate because he's not been healthy. For Tennessee, though, don't you just feel so much better about this team than we did a week and a half ago? It felt like here we go again. Tennessee peaked in January again. This team is doomed for an early exit because they can't score and they go through 5-minute droughts once a game. I feel worlds better about this basketball team, and they have got a chance if they can sweep these two rivals and get revenge on Kentucky and Vanderbilt this week. You would be riding a 5-game winning streak going into a stretch where you still got to play Alabama and you still got to go to Ole Miss and you've got to go to Texas A&M next weekend. It's not going to get any easier, but you have a chance to really cement yourself as a 1 seed with 2 wins this week.
You do, and as you said, like the style of ball that they're playing right now, I think that little lull they went through where they lost 2 straight. Auburn been one of those, Kentucky been another one of them. It seems now watching the games the last couple of weeks, like the flow of what they've been asked to do, it seems like they're actually listening to Coach Rick Barnes too. Like you look at them, like I've seen, of course, Chaz Lanier be one of those guys. Like he gets the ball and he shoots.
He feels back.
Yeah, he's not even thinking about it right now. The defense that they're employing against other teams is something that you see every man on the floor is doing, and it's refreshing. The shots that they're taking are more strategic than I feel like just jacking up shots for no particular reason. Even when Chaz gets it quick, I feel like when he was hesitant and trying to incorporate his teammates and be very selfless, it was making him feel like the ball needed to go in every single time. He's shooting the ball and getting back on defense right now because he's getting so confident in his shot. One thing I enjoyed about it too was, and I asked Ron about this one, Meshack. He's in a position right now where he's controlling the ball at the top of the key. But you know what that's doing? It's opening up everybody else because everybody's watching him and seeing what he's actually going to do offensively. And he's shown that he can score. Which game was it last week? I think it was the Florida game. He hit a 3. I think it was the leading scorer in the first half. 7 points, of course.
Hit one against Missouri.
To where his ability to, control the ball, the flow of the offense, and also let other guys roam and get free and get open has been a huge plus for the Vols because nobody thinks he's going to score, but he's actually facilitating, and I like watching him be in that spot right now. And to me, the sixth man of the year in the SEC, if they have that award, Jordan Gainey. I mean, his style, his aggressiveness, and just there's no drop-off in watching him come in and play basketball. I think the incorporation of him when Zakai was out, or the growth of him as a point guard, was big for this team because now when you have Jordan Gainey and Zakai Ziegler in at the same time, Zakai's shot has gotten a bit better around the three-point line, and it's just added an offensive element that I don't think we had last year or the years before either from him.
Yeah, and I said it, a couple weeks ago. Look, this is a grueling season for basketball, but especially when you're in the SEC, and we'll talk about the AP poll in just a minute, but every single night that you're out there, you're playing one of the better teams in the country for the most part.
And physical.
And very physical is the SEC as a conference when it comes to basketball. So when you look at Tennessee going through those tough times and that 2-game skid, I think it is almost better that you do it at that time and you learn from the different things, even with having to have Ziegler and
Milicic.
Milicic out for that game, right? And you were still able to find ways to win. I remember saying they were finding different ways to win. That is necessary sometimes if you are going to turn into a tournament team that's going to go the distance. And I think a lot of the time, some of these teams get hot. They're hot throughout the whole season, and then they die at the end.
Yes, because they hadn't had that.
Exactly. They don't know how to overcome the adversity in the worst moments. So I think Tennessee is in a good spot right now.
Yep.
The AP poll is interesting in basketball this week. So Auburn, despite losing at home to Florida, stays at number 1. Alabama moves up to 2. They're number 1 on the coaches poll, but in the AP, they've got Bama second, setting up the first 1 versus 2 matchup in college hoops since Tennessee-Memphis this weekend in the Iron Bowl of basketball. And then Duke and Florida are tied at number 3 after Duke lost at Clemson and Florida won at Auburn, even though they just lost by 20 to Tennessee. And Tennessee, despite beating Missouri and winning on the road at Oklahoma in blowout fashion, drops in the AP poll to 5th.
All I can correlate it to is Florida beat number 1. Very convincing.
And that's probably the best win in college basketball this year by anybody, because nobody had won in that building in quite some time.
No, have not.
Yeah.
But
what you got for us?
that's a bit too reactionary for me. Plus, I would put Duke fifth. I don't think Duke belongs ahead of Tennessee at this point. Duke's resume is not nearly as good as any of these SEC teams.
Okay.
And I think it's just hard at this point too, especially when you're looking at these SEC teams and where to put one over the other. Could Tennessee be above Duke in that? And that would make 4 straight SEC teams in the top 4. There's 4 out of 5 right now in the top 5. But when you look at, like I just said, the schedule, and every single week there's somebody knocking off somebody else, or it's flipping roles. So I think it's difficult to do that in terms of an AP voter week to week. It's almost like you look at Auburn, Alabama. Did they even want that as a 1-2 matchup? Like, you get into the weeds on this sometimes.
Wait, hold up. Duke's ahead of the Vols, and Duke lost to an unranked Clemson team?
Clemson has also beaten Kentucky this year.
Mm-hmm. It's just
Clemson's 23.
They're 20. And they are now 23. Okay,
Yeah.
So in a way, they're giving the SEC a lot of credit overall, because they're like, okay, Duke gets this win. We're going to keep him at this spot, and Clemson gets the. But then in a way, it's snubbing some of those teams.
Joe Lunardi, going into this week's games, has Tennessee as the last 1 seed and has Florida now knocking on the door as the number 5 overall team, as 1 seed or as the first 2 seed.
Yeah.
At this point, has Tennessee, Alabama, Duke, and Auburn as the 4 1 seeds. Of course, Tennessee never been a 1 seed in school history in the NCAA tournament.
You want to hear one that even blew my mind yesterday, too, when the AP polls dropped on the women's side? Lady Vols go up 5 spots. I know they beat UConn this past
and
week.
Lost at LSU on Sunday.
LSU. 5 spots. Jeez. I was not expecting that.
There are some people that actually saw a reporter in Knoxville thinking they should have gone up higher.
They should have gone up higher.
Yeah, we'll see. Coming up next, I'm going to talk some Titans. I think there is a risk the Titans might have to take in the NFL draft. It's the kind of risk that gets people fired. And the Titans have a big decision to make this year in the NFL draft. We'll talk about that coming up next.
It's Ramon Foster for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Y'all, I tell you all the time, man, they've been in business since 1990, which is a long time, man, to be a company like Hiller, who's been family-owned and operated since 1990, man. Their owner, Jimmy Hiller, man, is recently named the most admired CEO, one of the most admired CEOs, because of the way he truly cares for his team and his clients, man. And, of course, Hiller takes care of every customer on every job every single time, and they stand by their work. The motto is, man, happy you'll be or the service is free. It's that simple. If a customer isn't pleased with the work performed, they will make it right, all right? They always have the professional, experienced, trustworthy technician come into your home and leave it clean and better than they found it. What's even better about Hiller is this, the true transparency pricing. What that means is this, is Hiller will itemize every part of the job up front so homeowners can easily understand what they're paying for and why. There will be no hidden fees, no added costs, no surprises when you get that bill. Of course, we hate those types of things, man. But to get more information or to book like I do, simply visit happyhiller.com.
Well, the NFL draft is all about risks. And when you have the number 1 overall pick, you got to take some big ones. It's RKW here in hour number 2, 615-737-1045. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. I think there is a risk the Titans might have to take, and it is the kind of fireable offense that makes change in the NFL happen quickly. So, remember back when the Chicago Bears drafted Mitchell Trubisky?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We play the game a lot. Oh, Mahomes was right there. There he was. You had the opportunity to pick Patrick Mahomes, and you took Mitch Trubisky. All of the Bears and that organization, anyone associated with them, forever has that cloud over them that they chose Trubisky over Mahomes. How worried are you about the Titans passing on Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, them being successful somewhere else, and you become the Bears with Mitch Trubisky? How big of a risk is that for the Titans to take in the NFL draft this spring?
It's big because, there's no real, both these prospects, to your point, Will, Cam and Shedeur have, the what-if effect, right? Factor of what they got going on right now. Cam, all right, he's gone every destination he's been to, Incarnate Heart, Incarnate Word, Washington State, Miami, and has won. And you say to yourself, but a lot of times, right? You mentioned that, you like his intangibles, that you like the fact that he can, he has risk and he does a lot of stuff, but then he loses Syracuse and your season don't go the way you want him to. He didn't have a Joe Burrow finish. You know what I'm saying?
He's not that level of winner.
No. And that's
he's won some games, but he's never been on an elite college football team.
Exactly. Make Miami relevant. So you love that. Love the fact that, hey, bam, he's got something there. Okay. And then with Shedeur, it's the same competition. Well, man, I love what his dad says about him. He pours into him. He's surrounded him with Tom Brady. He's been mentored by a lot of NFL folks, from coaches all around the world. And you say to yourself, there's still a lot of questions about him. And that's where, to me, as far as Mitch Trubisky and Patrick Mahomes go, at least Mitch had a huge PR behind them that you somewhat believed in them. These guys seem like they got more knocks going against them to where it make it seem like you shouldn't pick one of them. But at that point, you don't have a good team if you don't have a good quarterback. Even San Francisco, I just heard Burton, his update, say, they are buying into Brock Purdy because Brock Purdy proved himself to be good. You were able to buy into a Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow proved that he was going to be good. The same goes for, even finding Jalen Hurts or Russell Wilson, all of these guys. You got to find the guy eventually. And right now, Tennessee don't have any of them. And the idea that these guys can go to either a good team, a good enough team, or a good enough system and be successful, and you didn't take the opportunity to pick one, yes, Will, that somewhat makes it a very fireable offense right there when it comes to what could have been. Because everybody's going to say that are correlated to the fact that, hey, if you stick and pick at number 1 and you don't take one of these franchise quarterbacks, then how are you going to get one for the future other than continually paying for one? You find yourself in a Ryan Tannehill 2.0. Ryan Tannehill was good for this team. But you're now in a position that you don't have the franchise quarterback, and you find yourself trying to figure out, can you make it work with Will Levis again? It repeats the cycle. At least with this one, you can say to yourself, if Shedeur or Cam gets drafted here and they suck, guess what? You're fine and you got an opportunity to reset. Or you do well enough on the back end to where you might save yourself some grace by picking another group of guys that can help uplift this team. This one, it's sticky because neither one of these guys, to me, just oversold themselves throughout college, other than the fact that we know who the heck they are and they got a lot of fanfare behind them. That's what sucks about these two guys in that situation. As much as I can say, I like Cam's arm or Shedeur's mind, how do you think it's going to translate over to the NFL?
You're always going to take a risk, no matter who the quarterback is that you could be going for over college, out of college, I should say. Let me take you back. Ever since 2015, there has been 8 quarterbacks that have been taken number 1 overall since 2015, right? There is only really one that you can look at that was originally drafted by their team, Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals, that has turned out to be everything is advertised coming out of LSU. The other guys since, more recently, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, still undetermined, right? It's still too early to know what they really are or what they'll be. Not lived up to the hype. I'm going to put Trevor Lawrence at the top of that list. I heard the word generational talent used so much with Trevor Lawrence when he was going through the draft process that it makes me want to puke now. Kyler Murray, Jameis Winston, those are other quarterbacks, in my opinions, have not lived up to what they should have been in the NFL. And then the other two that are a little bit interesting, which will maybe make my argument make a little more sense, is Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff. Better somewhere else. It took them a bit to really be the quarterback they needed to be when they got drafted. So I don't know if them passing on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders is going to matter as much because I don't even know if those two quarterbacks, where they go, will succeed right away, will play right away. And so it will give fans a little more time to be like okay with the move of not taking a quarterback, because I don't know if you're going to see the fruits of the labor of those two quarterbacks right away. I think they can be successful, but I don't know if it will happen right away. So I don't know if you can have that regret. I think it would be almost healed over time if you do make the right choice.
What sucks is there might have to be another firing behind that, though, if they don't work out, right? Baker Mayfield, what's his name, the head coach of Cleveland, like, he survived so
Kevin
far.
Stefanski.
Stefanski survived so far. You know what I'm saying? But, like, there's other guys in different situations that haven't yet. And you always Chad said that. You always take a quarterback and a guy behind him. Chad Brinker said that. So at this point, it makes sense, although I think picking outside a quarterback is probably a safer option. Because what's the guarantee you're going to pick top 10 next year?
It's hard to even get it right when they're coming out touted generational or whatever words they use.
Trevor Lawrence.
Right? But now it's like you've got two quarterbacks that you really have a 50-50 chance on hitting on. And it is more of a gamble.
The NFL just doesn't know what an NFL quarterback is right now, too. Teams don't. And that's the biggest issue that you're dealing with right now, because there's so many different variations. I think you understood what a pocket quarterback was more than these like dual athletes right now. Because if you don't have the arm, you at least have the legs. That's the way I somewhat look at Kyler. I think Kyler Murray is a way better runner than he is passer. But you also get excitement out of Kyler because he has the ability to extend plays and drives. And just guess what? He just so happens to throw the football too. Right. Trevor Lawrence, for me, I feel like he should run more, but he can't stay healthy enough to actually utilize his leg. The same thing goes for Justin Herbert right now too. Like, and again, he's switching offenses and trying to figure it out. But as it pertains to like Shedeur and Cam, I say take one, but they also need so many picks. The Titans are probably in the worst spot ever to have the number one overall pick.
It's a tough spot to be in this year.
They are in my opinion, the worst spot to have the number one opinion, because you're devalued because everybody knows you need picks.
Well, and there's extra risk associated to it because you are number one. Like, it's not like you're 2 or 3 and you could, in hindsight, say, Cam Ward is successful, but, we didn't have the chance to pick him. Like, even if you trade back now and one of these guys is successful somewhere else, you're going to take a huge hit for it in the court of public opinion. And Selly on YouTube says, would Mahomes have been Mahomes if he went to Chicago? Well, no. But do you think the average NFL fan cares? No. I'll answer my own question. They don't care. The same people that would be throwing tomatoes at Titans brass for not picking a quarterback that ends up being better elsewhere, like, they're not going to care about context. I think this is one of those situations where perception is reality. And I think the illustration we can give is that regardless of what Mike Bergonzi, Chad Brinker, and the Titans do, there is major, major, major risk that decides jobs associated with whatever they do, even if they take the safe route and sign a bridge quarterback and draft the most high-floor prospect at Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter.
Yeah. And that's where I know we had a little bit of that audio from Cam yesterday. It's just like a lot of what goes into this is hope, essentially.
So here it is. This is Cam Newton on Travis Hunter's podcast. He was a guest on there. A couple of interesting things that came out of this. But he talked to Travis Hunter about how the number one pick has to put fans in the seats and be a face that the fans know and care about.
Some NFL teams.
First pick. One of the players, or not the players, the GMs kind of tipped it off and was like, I want a generational talent. Respectfully, it's like outside of, Shedeur and Cam, there's your only quarterbacks that you kind of reach for. But generational for you, it's like, it's a different monster now. Because now you got to sell tickets.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, how does he impact the ticket sales? Do you give our fan base the confidence that when and with the first pick of it, and they see your name called, it's like, what?
Yeah.
You have that type of cachet. Not a lot of players have that type of cachet. And it's now going to be up to you to really perform, but you've always had that type of...
You don't worry about that. I'm going to perform.
You know what I'm saying?
So that's Travis Hunter talking with Cam Newton. How important is it to have a face of the franchise and someone that puts butts in seats with the number 1 overall pick?
Specifically at the quarterback position, that means a lot. It does. Because it's a new regime. It's a fresh start to what the leader of your franchise is going to be. That's why it means so much at the quarterback position. Like Cam referenced that a little bit in it, but like like Travis, and when he was talking about Travis Hunter right there, Cam Newton, he mentioned like the generational word. And that's where, to me, like picking between a quarterback and a non-quarterback, specifically Travis Hunter, like how much excitement can he bring to you immediately? Like it might not have the same effect as a quarterback, but what he will do is if he's playing wide receiver, does he make the quarterback better? Because that's what a generational player is supposed to do. If he's playing DB, does rushing covers for the Tennessee Titans with Big Jeff up front and Tavondre and Harold, does it make the back end of the secondary better too? And that's what Travis has said, well, I'm going to perform. Like, can you actually determine it? Are you really worth the risk of us taking you at number 1 if you don't have the same effect or influence as a quarterback does? And that's where, to your point a second ago, Will, about being fired for not taking one of these 2 guys, if they are successful, that can become very bothersome, especially if you have a reactionary front office.
Yeah,
that's where it also plays a part for me.
I mean, you're a few years away from opening up a brand new stadium where a lot of money is being spent, and we've heard it time and time again. They want the product to be good when they enter that stadium, and to me, you've kind of pushed the reset button at all levels, and you're saying the draft now means more than ever here on out up until the stadium opens. So especially when you know for sure right now, we don't know the future yet in terms of where they're going to draft. But right now, all we know is they have the number 1 overall pick. And it starts now in terms of building for the future and bringing fans to this team and keeping fans of this team. And so, yeah, I think the pressure goes up immensely if that's part of it, the marketing part of it, the face of the franchise, if they don't draft a quarterback and they get an Abdul Carter or a Travis Hunter, the pressure is absolutely on because they can't affect the game the same way as a quarterback, let's say, but they need to affect it as much as they can. And guess what? They have to affect it year 1 in my eyes.
So how are you going to feel if the Titans draft a non-quarterback with the number 1 overall pick? Do you see any scenario where that happens?
Yeah, I see Travis or Abdul.
I don't think it's likely. Like when is the last time a quarterback-needy franchise drafted anyone but a quarterback number 1 overall?
Not many times.
Honestly, probably since Kansas City with Eric Fisher.
Yeah.
Bert would know probably off the top of his head better than I would. But that is the first thing that comes to mind for me when you think about a team that needed a quarterback who did not take one when they had the number 1 overall pick.
And I would argue, though, this is kind of one of the more controversial years in terms of these 2 quarterbacks and what they really can offer. Because there's nothing else to talk about except for those 2 quarterbacks. Let's be honest. Let's be honest about it, right? And there's not even really talk of another one sneaking into the top 10.
Not in the top 10, but Jackson Dart has a lot of fanfare around him.
Absolutely.
But is that a great value at a 3rd round pick? Like, that's what you're asking yourself for a guy like him.
2014 Texans would be the other example, too. They drafted Jadeveon Clowney, number 1 overall, and they had Ryan Fitzpatrick play quarterback for them that season at 32 years old.
So, I mean,
do you think he was more generational?
Coming out of South Carolina, we thought he was.
In this class,
we thought Jadeveon Clowney was a once in every 10 years prospect at that position.
And they'd seen that with Mario Williams before, so they were trying to find that again.
Yeah. Do you know another quarterback with the quarterback that was in that draft when they took Jadeveon?
In that draft, in that
I was just curious, in terms of comparison of what that quarterback.
If we're comparing classes too, real quick, like, is anybody in this class have the fanfare that Jadeveon Clowney, even as a non-Heisman winner in this class, like, does Travis have that? Does Abdul have that?
I think
Travis Hunter does.
Travis has that.
Because he has the name recognition that Jadeveon Clowney did too.
Yes.
For sure.
The quarterbacks in 2014.
Okay.
Blake Bortles was the number 1 quarterback taken, number 3 overall to Jacksonville.
He got a lot of hype, by the way.
Blake Bortles?
Coming out of that draft?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got hype.
Yep.
Johnny Manziel, number 22 to the Cleveland Browns.
That's right.
And the 3rd quarterback was Teddy Bridgewater, taken in the first round. And then Derek Carr was taken by Oakland, number 36.
Okay, so that's an interesting class, too, because you had a lot of hype around Blake Bortles, right? And I know Manziel slipped for a lot of other reasons, but that's an interesting class too when you're comparing a team that really needed a quarterback and took Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I'm not going to be thrilled if they draft Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter number 1 because I think you could do that at 3 or the trade with the Giants at 3 I still think is realistic for them to move up. I think it is unlikely they stick at 1 and pick someone else. I'll believe it when I see it.
So the issue for me then is and maybe it's because of Brian Daboll, I guess, trying to find his guy and put a big name in New York because that's what
Daboll's on the clock too.
He is, and that's what Cam was alluding to. Like, you got to get a big name to put seats in butts. Like, but if they're
seats in butts.
I love that.
Butts and seats. I'm on a roll right here.
Slow down.
Seats and butts. I know. I'm eager because, like, if the Giants are that excited to go get Shador, should the Titans also? Like, that's what you're running into, or is the Giants trying to find a name that they think?
Sure.
I think
it's different rebuilds. John Mara has been vocal about how desperate he is. Yeah. The owner of the New York Giants. I think the desperation of the Giants, I think that's your trade partner.
Yeah, I think if they were taking number 1 overall, 120%, they're taking quarterback, no doubt about it.
But I said the other day, I think if you're taking number 1 overall, the safest pick to secure jobs to me is Abdul Carter, though.
But do you always want to be safe?
Right now, yeah. Considering where this roster is, yes, I do want to be safe. I think the lesson in all of this is if one of these other 2 quarterbacks succeeds somewhere else, it shouldn't get this front office fired. It shouldn't. Based on what they told us. They told us they want touchdowns, or they want first downs, not touchdowns.
Right.
They want to put their head down and build this thing from the ground up. This is where Amy Adams Strunk can put her money where her mouth is. And if you're really patient about building this thing over the course of time, then you don't take the flashy quarterback now. You take the best possible prospect.
The only thing that is going to get some of these guys fired if that happens is if in the next couple of years you can't find your quarterback and you're still trying to find a free agent to come over here, and then that other quarterback, Cam or Shador, does start to flourish, and you're still trying. Because without a quarterback, guys, we know what this team, it's not going to be much. And you can't just keep on putting a Band-Aid on that big position.
Well, that's the beauty of trading back. You get a second first next year.
Right? Yeah. And that's assuming they're going to be awful, which might... I guess we might be able to
Go
see
ahead, K-Stradamus.
Well, it's not even really that too, though. But with draft capital, you do get the chance. If you love a quarterback, you got more picks to deal with to move up.
Yeah.
615-737-1045. You're all right taking the risk that if you don't take a quarterback, these guys might be more successful elsewhere. Plus some NFL headlines and your reaction coming up next.
Hey, if you're living here in Nashville, you have plenty of things to choose from when it comes to restaurants, shopping, all of the above. But sometimes having too many choices when you're trying to find a local real estate agent you can trust can be a little bit overwhelming. And I've got the solution for you. You need to check out my friend Bernie Gallerani. Look, Bernie Gallerani, he's got years of experience. He's got a proven track record to go along with it, and he's not going to let you down. In fact, Bernie guarantees to sell your home in 30 days or less, or he will just buy it from you. Let's say you're relocating to Tennessee. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by the entire process, because it is overwhelming. Kayla was in the same boat, moving all the way from California. She connected with the Bernie Gallerani real estate team and couldn't have been happier with the experience. Even when her plans shifted, the team was patient, attentive, and supportive every step of the way. And now she's just days away from closing on her dream home. Bernie is the only real estate agent in Nashville recommended by Barbara Corcoran of Shark Tank, and the only agent I would trust to sell my home. So give him a call on his cell phone, 615-428-2644. That's 615-428-2644, or go to BernieGallerani.com.
RKW 104.5 The Zone, wrapping up the first half of your Tuesday morning. Your reaction to the conversation about the Titans draft. How big of a risk is it to take someone not named a quarterback, and then that quarterback goes and succeeds elsewhere? How mad are you going to be if that happens? 615-737-1045. Eric in Nashville has been hanging on, wants to talk about the Super Bowl here this morning. What's up, Eric?
Hey, guys, I was just so frustrated because Sunday my cell phone service went down about 2 o'clock. I couldn't call in yesterday, and I couldn't talk about the Super Bowl. I couldn't call in for you, not that guy, because my phone was messed up. So I finally, about 11:30 yesterday morning, cut my phone off for a few minutes, cut it back on, and it worked.
There it is, Eric. Technology, man.
Yeah. That's just so frustrating, guys. But the main reason I called to talk to you guys is just how vicious the Eagles fans are, and they love to just rub the salt in the wound. Guys, I don't know if you heard it, and I talked to several people, and they did hear it, but I got a kick out of it. I guess it was midway, late in the third quarter. I all of a sudden started hearing on my TV the tomahawk chop, and I said, oh, my gosh, I bet you that's Eagles fans trolling the Chiefs fans because there were a lot of Eagles fans there, and I clearly heard it. I talked to some other people. They said, yes, they heard it in the background. The tomahawk chop was going, and that was the Eagles fans trolling the Chiefs fan. And then after the game, of course, I was seeing sides of the crowd. And, of course, I grew up a Cowboys fan. There was actually one Eagles fan that decided to say Dallas Suns, and I just started laughing. They were just so vicious. But here's the thing that's going to top it off for me. Tomorrow night, I've got a friend who lives just a couple of blocks from me. We have a Bible study, weekly Bible study at his house. And I've been to his house time to time for dinner. He is a diehard Eagles fan as well as Philadelphia fan, all sports, because he served in the Navy and was over in that area. And he rubs the salt and wound to me because he knows I'm a Cowboys fan. I know tomorrow night he's either going to have an Eagles jersey on or probably Super Bowl champion Eagles. So that's just kind of, I'm glad Philadelphia won, but I hate the fans sometimes because they rub the salt in the wound. And I'll tell you another time, but I had a friend of mine who's Titans fan told me a story about one time how he went to Philadelphia and suffered and endured with the Eagles fans. I'll tell you that story another time. Because I know you want to get some other calls. But, guys, y'all take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Eric, it's so good hearing from you, man.
See, he couldn't call us yesterday, so he had a lot to say today.
Eric brought it today, man. Hey, that Bible study is with the Eagles fan. You make sure they don't boo you, okay, the way they do Santa Claus, the Santa Claus, all right? Eric makes me smile. My cheeks are so red now.
I feel like we hadn't heard of it. He's taken some big gaps between calling us.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Eric, you can't quit us.
Come on, Eric.
Yeah. The hell?
We need our weekly Eric fix.
ESPN's Jeremy Fowler writes that the sense coming out of Super Bowl week in New Orleans is that the door is open for a potential deal between the Steelers and Justin Fields. He says it would have to make more sense for Fields, who at this age will most likely want a more legitimate chance to start a full season. He adds, Russell Wilson loved a season in Pittsburgh and is open to returning, but is taking a see-what-happens approach to it all. If you had to gamble, Ramon, on Justin Fields or the field on who's going to be the quarterback for the Steelers next season, which direction would you go?
I would say Justin. I know they like him, and again, they didn't put Justin Fields on the back burner to play Russ for no reason. I think they know what they got out of Justin Fields, and he probably just, again, he's a veteran quarterback now because he's more than a year into the league that probably still needed to learn. And from my understanding, talking to guys in the locker room, Justin wasn't tripping. Justin just wants a little bit of security moving forward that pertains to the contract, and this is the offense he is too. So I see him back in Pittsburgh, but Justin's also in the open market. There's nothing Pittsburgh can do that can keep him.
And that's the biggest point, right? Like if he feels like he is truly the guy in Pittsburgh, I feel like that is a secure enough organization. I mean, I would love playing for Mike Tomlin as tough as he is, but I do feel like Justin can continue to grow there. But it is up to him. And can he go get a better opportunity somewhere else? Absolutely. But I think wherever he lands, he has to have it in his mindset, like, I'm going to get the job. And it's not going to be this 2-quarterback thing or I've got to win it. Like, I think he at this point wants to be secure in knowing he's going to be the guy wherever he goes.
Technically, the only team in the AFC North without a quarterback is, Cleveland still got Deshaun. Like, everybody's got their guy.
Right. And Deshaun Watson isn't really probably going to play much to at least start the season.
Achilles.
Right? I mean, he's probably
theirs.
out. Yeah, he is theirs forever.
Sicko.
Sorry.
Listen,
that was the stupidest thing to give him all that money.
At the time, it
might be Cam Ward soon in Cleveland.
Oh, God, they're going to ruin him, too. No doubt about it, man.
At some point, they got to get it right.
I will pray for you, Cam, if you go to the Browns.
It's interesting, though. I mean, he's got a 1,400-yard receiver to throw to if he does go there, and Jerry Jeudy.
He does.
And maybe Nick Chubb if he's back.
It don't matter, though.
Some decent offensive linemen.
They got to their left tackles up. I think this year they hadn't paid him.
And the AP Coach of the Year from a couple of years ago, and Kevin Stefanski.
All of those things always sound great when we talk about the start to a season for the Browns. But it always finds a way to screw things up, and in specifically the quarterback position, man. Whoa. There is no organization that ruins quarterbacks more than the Browns.
Well, now Myles Garrett wants out, too. So that's also the other part for me is, like, have they told him they're resetting? Because initially he wanted to hear him out.
They were 11-6 in 2023. They've been relevant more recently than the Titans. So you can make the same argument that if Cam Ward came here, we're going to ruin him, too.
Jeez, don't say that, Will.
It's true. The Browns are closer to relevant than the Titans are since 2020.
They've just gone through so many more quarterbacks there. I know the Titans haven't had their luck with them either, but my God, the Browns are bad when it comes to the quarterback
that's
position.
Where we're speaking about like these draft picks, number 1, or whether they move back to number 3. That's where also with this new regime that they have with, Chad and everybody else that's in line, like, You say to yourself, like, are you going to, like, slow this project down and actually build it up? That's the biggest thing that you're dealing with right now. Do you jump the line and go get your quarterback? Like, you do need one, but is this the year to do it, or do you build up a strong team? Like, to me, I feel like if the best success that a guy like Travis Hunter can have is if he went to a team that was somewhat stacked or moved up into the top 10, become a better team. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what they have. Like, if he went to Chicago, goodness. I mean, Travis Hunter in Chicago, I think, does a lot for that team. Travis Hunter in Tennessee, because
that might happen over time where you see the fruits of the labor pay off, but that is hard to say because of so many holes. That's a lot to, like, say, I'm going to go in here and completely change the team. Yeah. Like, that's not going to happen overnight.
It can't.
With that position.
Jaden Daniels is proving that
with
to be
that
wrong.
Position, though, of Travis Hunter.
And not every situation is like what Washington Commanders have.
You can change the defense, but it might not result in as many wins as a quarterback you bring in that you hit on.
No, absolutely not. It'll eventually get there is what you hope.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up, I thought it was interesting. ESPN.com ranked every team in the NFL going into 2025. I'll spoil it for you. The Titans are 32nd. On their list.
Smokes.
Well, they're the worst record in the league last
year. I know, but I just feel like maybe there's one more team worse.
No. Yeah, the number 1 pick. That's what comes with it. But I do disagree with who they have as number 1, and we'll do that next.
What's going on? 8 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Numbers are in. The Super Bowl this year, featuring the Chiefs and Eagles, drew a projected audience of 126 million, making it the most watched Super Bowl ever, breaking last year's record of 120 million. To the 49ers, as their owner Jed York made his intentions known yesterday, claiming the 49ers will, quote, do everything to extend Brock Purdy. After 3 seasons with long playoff runs, including an overtime loss in last year's Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs, the 49ers had a disappointing season in 2024. But with a core in place featuring Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, the Niners believe they have the talent to compete for a chance to play in the Super Bowl at home next season. And in the NBA, Luka Doncic made his Lakers debut against the Utah Jazz as LA wins at 132-113. Luka finishing with 14 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. The Lakers extend their win streak to 6 games, now 32-19, only a game and a half behind the Nuggets for the 3 seed in the West. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on into the second half, hour number 3, kicking off your Tuesday morning on a wet and rainy morning in Music City. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling. 615-737-1045 is our number. Who is the best team in the NFL entering 2025? ESPN.com ranks all 32 teams. They've got the Titans 32nd. They have the Kansas City Chiefs as the number 1 team in the NFL entering next season. Do you agree with that?
Kansas City Chiefs?
Top contender in the league?
No, not in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah,
No.
I don't know if I do either. When I'm looking at all the other teams right around it, I just feel like at this point, maybe we've even seen, I hate to say this because they still have Patrick Mahomes, but I could see them taking a step backwards after this season. I think we finally saw the year where they're not invincible.
Yeah.
And I think you found ways to, beat them. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you did it in the most beautiful fashion, most dominating fashion. And I know that the Chiefs will adjust to that. But I think the biggest thing that we can't, or they can't control necessarily, is they can do their best job at scouting in this draft. But even we had this discussion yesterday, they haven't drafted extremely well over the past couple of years. Like, they need to really hit in this year's draft. And they have the opportunity to do it because they have the picks, including a Titans third round pick. But I think that's going to be a huge part of if they are still the top team moving forward next year.
I just don't see it, just on the basis that, one, you got an agent, I guess, Chris Jones also that's got to play at an elevated level at all times. Yeah, they got some young talent, but he's the straw that stirs the drink to me for the most part. Figuring out the left tackle position, of course. Kingsley Suamataia, if I'm not mistaken, is with them also. But he didn't play much. He can't do anything as far as just projecting that he's going to be that good. Also, Isaiah Pacheco seemed to have been found out this last, at least against Philly, he was disappeared in a major, major way. And I trust Patrick, and they're contenders. I just don't think they're the number one contender. Too. And their issues to me are specifically more offensive.
Yes.
No wide receiver or tight end threat. Kelsey does his thing, but nobody.
We don't even know exactly Kelsey's situation. He said at the Super Bowl, hinted he was coming back, but that has not been confirmed.
Exactly. And you look at it and say, if you don't have an offensive line when you're a team that has that much potential, then you really have nothing unless they figure out anything else. Patrick looked skittish this past game to me.
He looked defeated.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got holes, and Brett Veach, the GM, has said the draft will be their free agency because they don't have a lot of money to spend.
Yeah, only $15 million to spend. I think that ranks 23rd. But the other concerning part about their roster construction is for 2025, they currently have the least players under contract, with only 37 players under contract. Wow. So you couple that with not having a lot of money to fill those holes or for depth reasons in free agency, they're going to have to hit on draft picks because they have to find, doing quick math here, 16 players to fill a 53-man roster. That's not easy to do with only $15 million.
And that's wild to me that they're the number one team coming back. And I know it's the quarterback effect, but I also look at this situation and say that should easily be Baltimore, Buffalo, Minnesota. Like, these are teams. I wouldn't even put Detroit in that top 5, to be honest with you right now, considering we don't know what their coordinators are. I know what their quarterback is capable of, but I don't know what their quarterback situation is or their defensive side of things. Kayla and I was talking about it on break. Kelvin Shepard is a first-time defensive coordinator who got elevated from inside to be the Detroit Lions defensive coordinator. So that's going to be fascinating for a first-year defensive coordinator with that team. Now, they got a lot of talent, but I would have put Baltimore and Buffalo in that conversation, and Philly. Those would have been my top 3.
I would almost put Buffalo up there and the Ravens.
It's just more complete in my opinion.
If you think the Chiefs have got to rework their offensive line, look at Baltimore again.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing for them, right? They have to, 100%.
They what?
What do they have to do?
Well, that was what I read on here.
They have to re-sign Ronnie Stanley. He is the only free agent.
Right,
the bridge.
Fine.
Yeah.
I'd put them up there.
That was the biggest thing from this article. It said the 3 words, or I guess the phrase for the offseason was offensive line focus again.
They ended up getting stronger out the second half of the season. And, of course, if Derrick Henry can make this offensive line here look good, then they also are under the veil of Derrick Henry in Baltimore also. And then the threat of the option that they run as a team with Derrick and Lamar, I think alleviates some of the pains of having that offensive line be middle of the road right now until they get better and better.
And you were mentioning the Bills, too, as well. And I think in terms of adding a key piece there, because there's things they need to do different, and they're going to lose a couple players. But that's why I still feel like Myles Garrett could be a guy that would fit there and be a difference maker for a team that can be competitive.
In Buffalo? Mm-hmm. Yeah. They just got to get rid of a lot to make room to sign him.
Nuts,
or trade
man.
for him.
There's no way they should send him to Buffalo. Absolutely no way. I'm talking about not a chance he need to go to Buffalo. But if he has it his way, then he'll be somewhere.
He wants to compete somewhere, right?
He does.
Yeah.
Bert, what's the biggest focus of the Ravens offseason?
I would say that they need to find some playmakers on defense. You talked about Detroit having brain drain with a lot of their coordinators leaving. You saw that with the Ravens this year. They lost Denard Wilson, Anthony Weaver, Mike McDonald, 3 big coaches on their defensive side. I think they need to go out and find some players. And they had big money players who didn't show up. Marcus Williams, who will be off the books next year. I think adding guys like that will prevent them from having a slow start on defense like they did this previous year, but also another year under coordinators' belts, where Zach Orr is no longer a first-time defensive coordinator, finding people who can create turnovers and not just be static defensive players. They had a lot of guys who had stats, who had good showings, but didn't turn the ball over effectively enough. So I think that's what prevented them from being a superstar team like a lot of people expected them to be with their offense clicking, but they didn't have enough turnovers to capitalize on that, to give them short fields. I think finding someone, for lack of a better player, a Travis Hunter-style player, someone who can turn the ball over, score on defense, I think that's what I would focus on.
Yeah, Jamison Hensley, ESPN.com NFL Nation writer, says this offseason, 2 of Baltimore's top free agents represent the left side of its offensive line. Tackle Ronnie Stanley, guard Patrick McCarry, but the Ravens are confident they can retool their blockers in front of Lamar Jackson.
See, the good thing about McCarry leaving is he kind of is their utility offensive lineman. He's played every position on the offensive line and played left guard last year because he was a little farther along than left guard Andrew Voorhees was. He was So I don't think having him walk would be the biggest thing. I think they were just unhappy with how Voorhees was constantly having holding penalties, false start penalties. He seemed jittery and not ready. And another year post-injury to get his body, I think he could play left guard. Now, if Ronnie Stanley walks, then they have a huge issue because then you're going to have to shift Roger Rosengarten from right tackle, who had a great rookie season, to left tackle, but then it's Robin Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
Now your right tackle's affected. So I don't disagree that their number one thing is to grab Ronnie, but I don't think a retooling of the offensive line would be the best category. And by the way,
maybe just the left side.
I love Jamison Hensley, by the way. I'm not disparaging his words, just disagreeing.
Shouldn't we put the Eagles up here?
They're number 4 on this list.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like they're more so just having to do what they did again, which is easier said than done.
Keep the band together.
Right? But not impossible by any means.
Got to re-sign Zach Bond.
Oh, yeah.
On defense, because he was just on a 1-year prove it.
Right. He was good.
On this list, though, too, I think it's fascinating. Like looking at the at this power ranking, 1 through 32, 12 of the 32 teams, man, I think it's a higher percentage, have quarterback issues. Starting with the Titans, Giants, Cleveland is on here, too. It's the description of this is describe this offseason in 3 words. And Cleveland's beat writer, Daniel Oyefusi, says quarterback or bust. You go up to the Jets, who replaced Rodgers. You go up to the Vegas, hitting reset again. Like, I would hope by the time we get to the draft, the conversation of like who needs a quarterback is high if you're talking about what the Titans need to do with the number 1 overall pick. And it just honestly makes for a bigger bargaining chip with that number 1 pick if other teams behind you just acknowledge, they need quarterbacks too. And Jacksonville, even that situation, I know they got the quarterback, but their 3 words that are described by their beat writer, Mike Rocco, all about Trevor. Like, it's as important of a decision.
Who got a new contract.
Absolutely. He did. But, like, that's what they have to deal with. And a lot of teams right now have quarterback issues or questions. And so do the Titans. And you hope they just, if they're not going to stick at 1, somebody rises to the occasion and go get one of these young quarterbacks.
Well, the beauty of this is that misery loves company in the AFC South. The Titans are 32nd. The Jags are ranked 26th. And the Colts are ranked 23rd.
Yikes.
In the NFL. So 3 of the worst 10 teams in the NFL are in your division, including yourself.
My goodness. Yeah, and if you're wondering, the Texans are at 11.
Texans are 11. Good for them. They got
rising
their
above the
quarterback.
rest. It does still have issues as well.
It does feel like on paper, in terms of who's back, I would put Baltimore maybe 1 or 2 on this list, to be honest with you, just in terms of big-time players that are back. Because I think Kansas City has got major questions on their offensive line, especially coming out of this game. And they can't pay to keep all the guys that already, were very inconsistent.
Right. And then you're saying you have to hit, like they don't have money, like you guys said, as much in free agency to just fill those spots. Like they've got to make sure this draft class, like they're going to have contributors.
They got to play right away.
Yeah.
They have got to draft immediate contributors, and they're going to have 2 or 3 starters come out of this 2025 draft class, probably day 1.
Yeah. I was just told, too, by our good friends from Ron Davenport that these polls were done at the start of Super Bowl, too.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It does now since Kansas City's number 1.
Sure.
For sure.
And again, I think the whole exercise is interesting in going through these other teams because you see Kansas City 1 and you're like, really? But then I can't really make a great argument for anybody to be ahead of them. Like Baltimore, I feel like on paper you could make an argument. I think the Lions, you could make an argument in terms of their roster maybe being number 1, but they've got major staff question marks.
Yeah.
They do.
The other difficult thing about Kansas City is like their division has been walkable for every year. Like the Raiders are in flux once again. Do the Broncos permit any kind of threat to them? Jim Harbaugh's still trying to figure it out with the Chargers. Like it's not like any other division in the AFC, maybe aside from the AFC East, where you could be like, it's not an easy walk. Like the Chiefs have a pretty easy walk to win the title.
Is that also why the Titans should take a quarterback too? Because the path to being successful in the AFC South is a little bit easier, if we can be real?
I don't think that should impact your decision.
It shouldn't.
No.
Should they be more successful, though, just real quick? Nah, every situation is different. I was just thinking to myself, well, if you come into a bad division with a rookie quarterback, at least you can, compete in your division. But that didn't happen with Levis. Right?
No.
I mean, this fan base wasn't satisfied with Ryan Tannehill simply beating AFC South teams because they couldn't get over the hump and be a legit contender. Beyond one run in 2019.
It seems logistic to say that when you're looking at, C.J. Stroud is obviously, and we don't know what he'll do next year. He took a little step backwards, but he's the only one that's really been the one we talked about, and that's just 2 years of proof. And again, he wasn't as good as he was year 1.
Trevor Lawrence has Liam Cohen now.
Yeah, and we keep saying, can Lawrence get over the hump?
He's got two 4,000-yard seasons.
Sure.
I know he hasn't lived up to generational prospect like Andrew Luck level expectations when he came out, but I would take Trevor Lawrence here in 1 millisecond.
For
what he's getting paid.
Yeah.
Over most quarterbacks in the league.
He's a dude that strikes me as like he's going to end up with Sean McVay and they're going to win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
And it's going to be like a situation where he was just in a terrible spot.
He's had Urban Meyer and Doug Peterson as his 2 head coaches.
He might have a shaved head by then.
I mean, seriously. Y'all, it's fascinating. Bobby Slowick, too. Gone. Just that quick.
And we've heard all the kind of things that ruffled feathers over there with maybe the relationship with C.J. Stroud. Who knows if that's entirely true, but interesting that he was out.
Speaking of ruffling feathers with people that were on your team, Cam Newton did that again yesterday. And it pertains to the Titans because the Titans have the number 1 overall pick. The former Panthers quarterback gave Travis Hunter some very interesting advice about being the number 1 overall pick and playing with losers. We'll hear that audio and react to it next.
It's the month of romance, man. Valentine's is almost here. I'm telling y'all on the clock right now, but are you looking for the most thoughtful, most romantic gift for the one you love this Valentine's? At Genesis, celebrating love is their specialty. Maybe it's a simple pendant, or maybe it's an exquisite, one-of-a-kind designer ring. Well, Genesis, they can help you pick out the most memorable and special piece of jewelry for the occasion. And to make it even sweeter, now until Valentine's, whether you spend $399 or $399,000, Genesis will give you some chocolates, fresh flowers, and dinner out at no charge, all right? It's a one-stop shop for the ultimate Valentine's experience. So when you buy any piece of jewelry that's $399 and up, Genesis will give you a bouquet of flowers, a gift card for a dinner at a fancy pants restaurant, man. So don't mess around. Get to Genesis Diamonds, all right? See their spectacular collection of rings, earrings, pendants, bands, bracelets, and more. And their non-commissioned experts will help you find the perfect gift to celebrate your love with the one that you cherish. And Genesis will even throw in some chocolates, flowers, and dinner at no charge. Happy Valentine's Day from Genesis Diamonds. They're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs. And, of course, unlimited quantities, so see store for details.
RKW 104.5, The Zone continues. And when you have the number one overall pick, there are eyeballs on you as an organization the way there typically aren't eyeballs paying attention to you, including Cam Newton's eyeballs. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling. So this interview between Travis Hunter and Cam Newton, I believe this was from the Super Bowl, correct? So it's in person in New Orleans.
No. It was Super Bowl. You said Super Bowl?
That's what I said.
Super Bowl, yeah.
Oh, my bad. Well, I was looking.
So Cam Newton warned Travis Hunter about, hey, when you're the number one overall pick, you have to play with a group of losers. And this audio has kind of made some waves.
When I was the first pick, I went into a locker room of losers.
How did you handle the pressure of being the top pick?
Let's put it in perspective. You're the top pick because what?
Where you play?
No. You're looking at it from a personal situation. I'm talking about from the professional situation. You're the top pick because that was the worst team in the NFL the year before. For me, I wanted to be the number one pick. You could potentially be the first pick, but bro, you have no way of impacting the game like a quarterback does. You can lock down the number one receiver. You can make impact plays on offense all you want, but it's still not like a quarterback. My issue is when I was the first pick, I went into a locker room of losers. Guys didn't know how to win. Guys didn't know how to prepare. It was a culture shock for me. The games don't mean a lot to a lot of people in the league like you would expect. It's just money. Not everybody has capabilities to be impact players. They're just players.
Cam Newton, if I am a former Carolina Panther that played with him in 2011, I am not thrilled.
Look, he's not really wrong overall with what he's trying to put across as the point. Because when you look at that 2010 team, look, they had 2 wins on the season. Technically, that is a group of losers in terms of a team when you only win 2 games and you do have the number one overall pick. Now, do I agree with the part that these individuals are only going out there and putting some sort of effort out, which is not that much because they're getting paid a lot of money? No, I don't. I've been in a locker room with the Titans when they've been a really bad team. Those guys still want to win. Now, whether or not they have the parts to win is a different story. So I agree and disagree with this. But when you look at this team, too, I mean, one of their most known players at that time before he was drafted was Jonathan Stewart. You could say he's probably one of the more impactful guys. Other than that, I mean, they had Steve Smith Sr., but he didn't really do much that year. The quarterback, Jimmy Clausen, like who? So it's interesting, but it's realistic in terms of what he's saying.
Yeah. I'm very much pro player. Very much pro player. Like, y'all know I back the players a lot when slanderous things come out. Cam ain't really lying, if I can be honest with you. In my opinion, and I've gone back and forth with this thought about what Cam said yesterday because I'm just like, well, what is he saying? And I feel like he's going to have to answer this in some context more when he goes on the big networks and stuff. But in actuality, he's not lying. Individually, John Beeson was a dog. Individually, Steve Smith Sr., dog. Like, there's a lot. D'Angelo Williams, good friend of mine, dog on that team. Like, they got a lot of good players. And Kayla, I would push back on your sentiment. Like, the money is cool. Well, I'll say this. The love for the game is awesome. But a lot of dudes' motivation is the money.
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's not it. But to say, like, that these guys aren't trying to go out there and win games, like, to call an individual a loser is separate from, I think, calling a team a loser.
No, the team for sure.
Is a loser.
I've played against some teams. It's just like, y'all suck. Like, you a dog, but y'all suck as a team. And that's what competition is. Like, I know when we were going to go beat bad teams. I knew when teams were badly coached. And it ain't just the players. It's a combination of front office, coaches, and players when it comes down to this type of stuff. So to say that locker room that he went into, yes, it is a losing culture. Like, I was having this conversation with a lot of, like, well, I ain't gonna say with a few of my friends about this topic right here. And here's what, like, is said about teams that are always winning. You can name them off. Green Bay, Philly as of late, Kansas City as of late. Like, you look at those squads traditionally, like, they will absolutely value an older, close to being washed up player because of the things that you can't buy. The leadership, the standard of operating when it comes down to what the expectation is of to teammates. Like, when you have people, and I'll name one in general, like Cam Hayward, getting another contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, that was because Cam was more valuable with what the standard that the Steelers uphold inside the locker room more than his play. You mentioned, like, Fletcher Cox the first time around when the Eagles had held on to him when they was trying to let him go, and he keeps the standard of operating high for teams like that. And it's because of those intangible things that you can't necessarily buy but are important to your organization. I throw myself in there real quick because I try not to do this type of stuff. Like, I know for sure, like, my last few years was because of what I brought inside of the locker room. Keeping Pouncey straight. Hey, Ben, I got you because of Pounce in this situation. Hey, there's a young guy that needs to be coached up. You sacrifice other things to keep a culture alive. And a lot of times with these players on these teams, you go after talent, and those players that have that talent are also chasing that bag. And, like, understanding how to win football games, a lot of teams don't know that. A lot of players just go in and get their bag and go the hell home. And yes, there's a sense of pride in competing, but to understand how to actually win is a process. It's a cultural thing. Like, that's the culture that you speak of in these moments. So no, he's not wrong. Like, Burnham brings up this point right here. Like, it's hard talking about this one because I'm not him and he's not me. The pre-game situation that Taylor Lewan had in Seattle, where he had an injury and he had to call out, and then, like, it was,
and that was a good team.
It was a good team.
That wasn't a group of losers.
It's you side eye, like, a lot of things that happen on bad teams. You know the ones that are chasing it.
Let's go more recent. DeAndre Hopkins subbing himself out of the game because he's not getting enough targets in Buffalo.
Yes,
that's a losing culture.
That's a losing culture,
Absolutely.
Will.
Well, and
the overpaying for Deshaun Watson.
Right.
That's a losing culture. Like, you're trying to do the right thing, but good teams don't do that type of stuff. Like, that, to me, signifies they going to pay me at some point, and I'm going to get the hell out of Dodge and go find me a team that's good. Like, that's the reason Myles Garrett wants out.
And see, the whole point of this is he was drafted in 2011, guys. Like, I'm talking about, he was drafted in 2011. The team that he came into was a losing team. Like, they didn't have some of these names you guys are throwing out there in terms of Greg Olsen and Luke Kuechly. Like, guys, they weren't on the team.
Yeah.
And they weren't on the team when...
Yeah, Greg Olsen was on the Bears in 2010.
Like, so that's the point Cam was trying to say. When he was drafted, he was coming into what, at that point, was a loser
culture.
Team.
Yeah,
it
was. It was. Cam's not wrong. His messaging was bad. But not wrong, in my opinion.
I think the way where he rubbed Steve and other Panthers that chimed in the wrong way, we're saying they didn't know how to prepare. You can be a loser and still be a pro, right?
Yeah.
He was challenging their preparation. He was challenging, no one knew. I was the only one. I came in there and no one else knew how to get ready for a game. That's where he stuck his foot in his mouth, in my opinion, because the Panthers have been perennial losers. I don't think that would have hurt anyone's feelings to say the Panthers are a loser. But I came onto a team of losers, and I had to teach them how to prepare.
I'm going to be real. That does play a part in it. That's where I, like, listen to the rest of the podcast. Like, Travis Hunter did have a point. Like, everywhere that he's been, whether it's been his 707 teams or wherever, like, he has helped elevate people. I do think, specifically at the quarterback position, we're talking about the Titans taking or not taking the number one pick as a quarterback. Like, in Cam's position, he can uplift an entire team and change the method and how they look at competition, how they do study the details to how he throws footballs and the offense operates. And he somewhat brought that up to Travis, too. Like, how are you going to? And
I agree. It is going to be more difficult if they take a guy like Travis
non-quarterback.
Hunter. Absolutely. Because, I mean, look what Jaden Daniels did, too. I mean, he did elevate his team. There is no doubt about that the quarterback position that they took did elevate their team this year.
I have seen guys, been around guys that have elevated talent. That does happen. So Cam, in my opinion, I do think, like, Steve Smith's a borderline Hall of Famer, and there's a lot of guys that's in that conversation that he played with. But Cam did help elevate what their mentality was on winning and competing. I'll give him that much in Carolina.
I think the tricky part of what he talked about was that team had gone 12-4 2 years prior when they had Jake Delhomme playing quarterback. They had Jimmy Clausen at quarterback when they went 2-14. Yeah. Like, I think that's the part that's kind of unfair for Cam Newton, is a lot of those same players were winners. They just weren't most recently. So how this relates to the Titans. Are the Titans a group of losers then?
As a team, I would go out there and look at them. It's like, we're going to end up beating this team easy.
So the Titans have a losing culture problem
right now,
like Cleveland that we talk about, like the Jets, like
Kayla,
the Giants.
You're in the locker room. You hear them be frustrated by the losing.
I think the big part is they're in between right now because they don't really know and haven't set the culture yet. Because it's been different from what it was when they were peaking with Mike Vrabel. There was a definite culture. And then even when they started to lose at the end of Vrabel's tenure, like that culture definitely started to crumble, right? Because you started losing more than you were winning. And then you go to try to reset everyone and reset the culture, and you only win 3 games. And a lot of the guys that were brought in were patch and play players. So you're really starting to try to find what the heck your culture is. So at this point, all we know is they won 3 games. Yeah, that's a losing culture right now, as hard as it is to admit.
Yeah, well, my answer to your question is yes, right now. It is. And it's because you lose to bad teams also. Or you find ways to get dog walked by the good teams. Like, what about last season would say, like, as a team, it's a winning culture team. It's not just that at all. Like, again, you mentioned just a second ago the fact that D-Hop found himself out. Not just him. Jamal Adams did the exact same thing. Like, that's for the ones that want to win. And here's the thing, too. There's a lot of players on the squad that want to win. I don't want to make it seem like as individually, I know Jeff wants it. I know Harold wants it. I even know Will Levis wants to win.
Sure.
But the operation of finding how to is not existent right now. There were so many stakes over there. That's Detroit, the Detroit game.
They got blown out a lot last year.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
They got blown out a lot last year.
They did.
Yeah, they lost 30-14 to Malik Willis. They lost 34-10 to Buffalo, 52-14 to Detroit. Of their 6-game losing streak to finish the season, only 2 of those games were a touchdown or less deficit. Jacksonville, when they lost 10-6 at home, and then Jacksonville again on the road when he lost 20-13. So the only 2 games that you lost of your last 6 within a touchdown or less were against a team that fired their head coach and their general manager.
And you should have beat them.
And
you shouldn't be beating some of these teams.
The other part of it, though, too, is like this, like losing teams find ways to lose games, too. I think that's why it's such a polarizing conversation around the Kansas City Chiefs getting calls, too. Because here's the thing. Good teams have been in a lot of situations on how they've won football games that they know mistakes not to make. Or they do know how to play the ref game. They do understand, hey, if I throw this football up, there's a less than cornerback over here that's going to get a DPI. That's what, like, winning teams find ways to win football games.
Well, and I think when you become a team that is active in day 1 and 2 in the first week of free agency, you become the team that pays guys to have a water slide at the end of their career.
Yes, man.
You are paying people who have already won and now want to get paid and take care of their families. And L'Jarius Sneed last season, I know there was a lot of speculation, a lot of conversation about him not coming back from injury that appeared pretty low-key at the beginning and then became a bigger thing. I'm not calling the Titans liars. And I know he lost a lot of money, but you side-eye that a little bit.
You do?
Yeah.
Chidobe Awuzie was paid $14.5 million against the cap last season. Lloyd Cushenberry, that's bad luck. You snap an Achilles.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna talk bad about Lloyd Cushenberry having a freak, very unlucky injury. But with the exception of Tony Pollard, how many of these guys that they brought in free agency last season really went above and beyond what we expected them to be?
And I think Diggs could have been put in that category. Unfortunately, he had the injury too, because he was a good player for them when he was healthy. So, but with the exception of him and
meaning Quandre Diggs,
with him and Tony Pollard,
deal,
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, and he was a 1-year deal.
And that's more where you want to live as an organization, is living in the Sebastian Joseph Day, Quandre Diggs world versus the Calvin Ridley and L'Jarius Sneed world.
Correct.
You do not want to become the organization that pays guys after they've already won everything they want to win. Jacksonville has been that for so long. Hey, you already won all the games you want to win. You want to be a contender. Come on down here. You can make money and take care of your family for generations. Yeah. So that is where, again, you're going to have to stomach this team not being as active as you want them to be. And it might mean you're not in for Josh Sweat. It might mean that you're not in for Trey Smith. It might mean that you're not interested in the big-time quarterback like Matthew Stafford or Derek Carr. It might mean that you settle for Daniel Jones. with the idea that you are getting people that are motivated to be leaders of the locker room and give a crap and remake their entire careers because it hasn't peaked yet. That's the challenge you have when you're a team like last season, when you got guys who probably, let's be honest, already peaked in their careers. You are looking for reclamation projects who haven't peaked yet. And that's not going to be exciting, and it's not going to be as flashy coming up in a few weeks and really a month when free agency opens.
And then to get out of the funk of losing too, Will, to your point about guys that have already peaked, you also got a plethora of young guys that haven't even understood what the league is. Just Tavondre, trying to figure out what Tajay is going to be, trying to figure out if JC can do it. Like, so there's still, on one end, you got guys that's gotten it already, and you hope that they can drag people to the finish line. And on the back end of it, there are some good talent here that have yet to grow up.
Yeah.
Peter Skoronski, like, we speak about the ifs with him.
And he's taking steps.
He is,
definitely
but like,
is.
think about where a guy like Creed Humphreys is on a winning team
And
that you know is there, to where there's a lot of losing that Peter Skoronski's had to deal with. And how does he understand how to win unless there's somebody that's going to jolt it or there's time to let him grow up?
And I'll tell you, too, the amount of times I heard Tavondre Sweat and J.C. Latham say, I've never been used to this much losing in my life. And that they were welcomed to the NFL in a fashion they've never dealt with on their playing level before, right? And so you're right. They've got to navigate, and they've both got to take steps as being leaders. Because when it's all said and done, guys, like the draft now, in going back to last year and the success those two guys had at moments, like they have to build on that too, and they know they have to take a step forward in their sophomore year.
I know a guy.
They're the base.
I know a guy that got signed by a bad team that had a new coach, and he ended up walking out in the middle, like right before training camp started, because it was just that bad. It's just like I can't be here when it's that bad. And like he didn't fully commit. Like, of course you can say, well, he quit. Like, no, business decisions have to be made when you're not in that spot to be taking a butt whooping week in and week out. That sucks. That absolutely sucks. So yeah, when you are a bad squad, like Cam said, some guys just only care about payday.
You started to feel that at the end of the season, I'll tell you that much.
It is the mental side of draft, develop, retain. When you draft someone and you give someone their first opportunity at the beginning of the career, they're going to give a crap more about that organization than if you just sign them in free agency, right?
Yeah,
100%.
There is ownership of that because that's the first team that believed in you.
Yeah, it is. And you're willing to take a little less to stay.
Right.
Like, and then the continuation of your winning culture continues too. And then I go draft a young guy.
And it's just why they need more draft picks to find more of those players.
I know.
Don't give a crap.
So with that being said, real quick, are we pretty much alluding to the fact that the Titans should go get a veteran guy to help win?
Yeah.
Quarterbacking?
They need a leader of the offense. They need leaders on defense. Like, I tend to shy away from having like leadership, quote unquote, discussions because I don't like doing radio about things that I can't measure.
Right.
Like, what is the value of leadership? Well, I don't know. Depends on the player. Depends on the team, right? Like,
and the position.
But they need it in a bad way.
I think they don't have any of it except for Jeff.
615-737-1045. Are the Titans a group of losers? Your reaction on the phones and in the FNN Big Chat, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. More of your thoughts. And another NFL note from Dan Graziano I thought was interesting about one AFC South team coming up next.
It's Ramon Foster for the Wellness Institute of Nashville, man. Guess what, y'all, man? They have my seal of approval on this deal that could absolutely change your life. By the way, I went by yesterday, man, and they put me on one of those state-of-the-art spinal decompression machines. I didn't realize how much I needed it, y'all. So whether you're a construction worker out here or a mom that's tired of carrying the family on your back, whatever it is, man, listen, this is one of those situations where you have to realize that, hey, a healthy back and a healthy spine means the most to you. And I am a believer. The special that we have right now is the Behind the Lines offer, where it's $37, which is a flip of my number, $37 consultation, and that includes a doctor's visit, x-ray, which I got yesterday if you need them, and the first treatment. If you need more in-depth treatment because you are part of the Zone family, yes, I'm inviting you guys in. They will give you 50% off spinal decompression treatment. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley just want you to get better, man. Simply reach out to them. You can call them at 615-246-5009 or go to painisbad.com and be sure to tell them that Ramon sent you.
Do the Titans have a losing culture, and how do you fix it? As we wrap up hour number 3 on RKW, it is a question that gets a lot of people paid millions of dollars. So there's not one fix to it. Otherwise, you'd be getting paid millions of dollars. You'd have the answer. Right. But we will give you the opportunity to give an answer at 615-737-1045. Michael is in Nashville first up. Good morning, Michael.
How you doing?
Good. Good morning.
Well, listen, I think the Titans is a loser, but they got more problems. I mean, they got front office problems, they got locker room problems, they got fan problems, and now you're starting to have time problems. What's going to fix it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Time problems, you say, last? Either
Listen.
What you saying?
Where's my? Excuse me. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. You said they now have a time problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've been losing so much. How much before the fans started not to come to the game?
This past year. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
They didn't come for the last month of the games.
And what fixes it? Hitting on your draft picks from here on out.
Just win, baby.
But you ain't even got that many this year to like if you had like 14
you got to
picks,
hit on.
there's also the miss rate on that too.
Comes with pressure.
Let me ask you this. Would you be more willing to take a risk on a quarterback if you had a third-round pick this year?
Yes. Especially with this draft. How many times have we heard from people who have joined our show that are doing this on a daily basis, breaking down this year's draft? There is still, in terms of if you can get value, second and third round this year.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, to Caleb's point, I do. Because you need some get back in this top 100.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it becomes problematic for you. It's like you're seen at this point. I keep saying, I feel like you're seen at this point because everybody know you need one or two more picks,
right,
if not more.
It's funny on both sides of that because if they had not traded for L'Jarius Sneed, you might feel better about picking a quarterback because you'd have a third-round pick to fill the needs. Sure. You'd also feel better about drafting Travis Hunter. Because you would have a more glaring need at corner, considering you don't know, you wouldn't have L'Jarius Sneed. So, either side of it.
You don't. And
Interesting.
Then, do you feel more comfortable getting a Travis Hunter and then a Jackson Dart in the third, if that's the case?
Somebody asked us that earlier this morning and said, why don't you guys want to draft a quarterback in the second round?
Because you got more, like important needs to go get everything else. Like, you've tried that one before. I think if you're not going to get one of these top two guys in the first, then I don't want one in the second.
I think that's what it really is,
I think you're reaching at that point of way too much to go get a second-round quarterback.
If you're going to get the quarterback, that you have to have a quarterback and belief that this quarterback is going to be your dude, no matter what, no matter if he is your guy or not. So why would you not take, in terms of what is probably the two better quarterbacks out of the whole entire class with the number one overall pick, then just settle for a third-round pick quarterback where you're just wasting a pick at that point, if you're in my opinion.
We got a comment from Titan Husker that says, which is why you draft Travis Hunter. He would potentially put butts in seats, not like a quarterback would.
It's a good question.
I think people would be excited about Travis Hunter.
I think there's a real flash and story with Travis Hunter.
Last homegrown big-time corner, Pac-Man.
For here in
the Tennessee.
Cortland Finnegan was pretty good.
High pick. Respectfully to Cortland. Because Cortland was a dog.
It's been a minute.
Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner with the Jets.
And Pac-Man was less of a lockdown corner, more so he was a returner.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was more like a Devin Hester than he was a Sauce Gardner, Pat Surtain type right away.
Sauce is a good example, though, of a cornerback who can drum up that type of excitement.
But there was a bigger excitement because of what Aaron Rodgers brought also. Like, you think, with me, I think, yes, Travis Hunter could be the number one overall pick. Could be. But I also view this situation as, like, I view Travis as a boy, and then, like, when he hits years 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, he should be a dog. Like, I don't think the quarterback puts me in immediate expectations.
Yeah, the last time you drafted a good corner, Christian Fulton had a little run when he was healthy, when his hamstrings were intact for those 5 minutes.
Rare.
Adoree Jackson had some good years as a first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the last time you spent a first-round pick on a corner. But going back, then, it's 05 Pac-Man was the last time you took a DB that high.
Do you remember what, who's the quarterback when Adoree was here?
Mariota.
Marcus Mariota. So did Adoree bring more, butts and seats? Because of his position of a first rounder?
Nah.
And that's the problem
Marcus
you're dealing
Mariota
with.
did.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem you're dealing with. With Travis a little bit is, okay, you're going to be nice.
Yeah, but Travis isn't just your everyday corner. Travis Hunter is a superstar.
Yeah.
A superstar.
And he's got the personality, too, of a superstar. He does.
100%.
He does.
Adoree, you didn't really know much about Adoree. It's not like Adoree
wasn't a generational talent.
Sensational personality, yeah.
Dustin and Franklin up next. What's up, Dustin?
Hey, guys. Love the show. Just want to say, yes, the Titans are a group of losers, but I want to get the over or under on Titans being on Hard Knocks. I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
I know that was up.
Thank you, Dustin.
Well, if they do draft a guy like Travis Hunter, that would be a prime place to be.
If they have Aaron Rodgers, then you can just go ahead and schedule it. Just go ahead and write that down.
So real quick so I can just have clarity on some of it. So what I'm saying is this. I'm not denying that Travis is a show, is a star, is everything. But there could be games we see or hear nothing about Travis, right? What we do know is this. If it's a quarterback and either he's good, hey, through the roof. Even if he's bad, we still got something to talk about on every single play. They may avoid Travis on game days. But does it even make your defense better if that guy over there is bad? At least the conversation
Brownlee or McCreary or whoever, right?
At least the conversation around the quarterback is an everyday thing that either
100%.
to raise your profile. I don't know if you get that from Travis at a corner position.
I just don't care.
You just
Dylan makes the point on YouTube, says can't draft for butts in seats. Need to draft to build a foundation to win games, which will put butts in seats.
And we're still not sure.
I agree with that.
We still aren't sure if he's going to be a corner here. That's the other thing. We can't just say he's going to be corner here. Right?
To the point on Pac-Man, year 2 he had 4 interceptions, but that rookie season, talk about what he did day 1. Didn't have a pick his first season. I remember him starting off as more of a returner in 05. Then he became a better corner in 06. He had 4 picks and had a pick 6 that season. So kind of both sides of that are accurate.
And what did he go overall?
6. 615-737-1045 is the number. We'll get to Kevin on the phones when we come back talking about trading back. But if you missed it early this morning, Austin Price joined us at 6:20, and we asked him, is this it for Rick Barnes? Considering some of the comments he's made in the media, Austin gave a very interesting answer that you'll want to hear if you're an SEC Hoops fan, coming up next.
What's going on? 9 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. The numbers are in. The Super Bowl this year with the Chiefs and Eagles drew a projected average audience of 126 million, making it the most watched Super Bowl ever, breaking last year's record of 120 million. In the NBA, Luka Doncic made his Lakers debut against the Utah Jazz as LA wins it 132-113. Luka finishing with 14 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. The Lakers extending their win streak to 6 games, now 32-19, only a game and a half behind the Nuggets for the 3 seed in the West. To the 49ers, where their owner Jed York made his intentions known yesterday, claiming the 49ers will, quote, do everything to extend Brock Purdy. After 3 seasons of long playoff runs, including an overtime loss in last year's Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs, the 49ers had a disappointing season in 2024, but with a core in place featuring Purdy with stars like Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Fred Warner, the Niners believe they have the talent to compete for a chance to play in the Super Bowl at home next season. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the show goes on into the 4th and final hour on your Tuesday morning. The conversation and the company more bright and lively than the weather. In Music City this morning, 615-737-1045. We'll get back to your phone calls of the Titans in just a moment. Going to talk more about Travis Hunter, who Field Yates has mocked to the Titans this morning at ESPN.com. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling. Robert Walsh makes the show happen. Typically on Tuesdays, we catch up with VolQuest's Austin Price at 8:20. Well, this morning we had him on earlier. Had him on at 6:20 and previewed a little bit of Tennessee and Kentucky tonight, of course, right here on The Zone, courtesy of the Vol Network at 6 o'clock. I asked him about whether or not this is it for Rick Barnes. I feel like the Tennessee fan base has this idea that this might be the last dance. Zakai Ziegler's graduating, going to have to replace a lot of production, but Tennessee is still recruiting some elite 5-star talent, including number 4 overall player Nate Amon. Austin tends to think this is definitely not it for Rick Barnes.
I think the natural notion off of that comment made people think, well, this is it, right? I don't think he meant it that way. I think he meant like, I might have got out a few years ago, but this has kind of reinvigorated me. Having Zakai has reinvigorated me. He's adapted. Look, Roy Williams and Jay Wright and some of the others of his era have not adapted to the NIL transfer portal world. Rick Barnes, who I would have told you 5 years ago, there's no way in the world he would adapt to this, has adapted beautifully to this. And he's really, just kind of run with it. I think he enjoys the fact of like he's recruiting older players who have developed and been able to kind of mold the clay when it's already formed versus like when it's a brand new batch. And so like he's done a really good job with the kids in the transfer portal and this era. And so I think he's recruited as if he's going to be back. And, like, I think he wouldn't be putting the amount of time into some of the players they're recruiting if I think he thought I'm out at the end of the year. So, again, as of right now, it certainly feels like to me there's a strong chance he is back for next season.
I think it's good news for Tennessee fans, and certainly coming from Austin, I think a reputable source that tells you that this is probably not it for Rick Barnes in 2025.
Do you think it would be if you guys did win a national championship this year?
Would it be? Yeah, I'd walk out if that was the case. Coach Barnes also, that's me speaking. Coach Barnes also has that competitive spirit to where, it's never done. Like, it's always the what next factor. Mm-hmm. I think he'll, is he college football? Is he basketball Hall of Fame just yet? Also, like, he's checking a lot of boxes as it pertains to what he's done. He's put guys in the pros. He's got one of the best players. He's coached one of the best players in the history of basketball and Kevin Durant, in my opinion. I know a lot of people hate him, but, he's done a lot.
So.
He's transitioned from going to one big school in Texas to another big school in Tennessee and keeping both of them relevant. The only pushback I have about Coach Barnes is this. The only pushback I have about him recruiting, they got like 5 stars coming in right now. He's understanding the transfer portal a little bit better than most, which is where he edges the other guy in this conversation. Nick Saban bowed out. He also had the number 1 recruiting class.
I will say this, though. That's a different sport and a different recruiting grind.
I know. And he admitted that he wasn't into the NIL like post-retirement too. Mm-hmm. To whereas currently, Coach Barnes is telling guys that's what the money's for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He gets it.
Sure. He is adapted because he can still be who he is and adapt, if that makes sense. Like, the grind of being a head coach in basketball, the way he does it, could not be more different than what Nick Saban is. Because in football, that is a 24/7, 365. The head coach is recruiting.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In college basketball, Rick Barnes comes in at the very end and can basically recruit for 3 or 4 weeks, not months even, 3 or 4 weeks out of the year after his assistants have done the legwork. And so it's not the same physical toll. It allows you to coach longer and older into your 70s, more so than college football.
Right. And no matter, if that's easy or not, which it technically maybe is, I still give him a lot of credit for being one of the coaches that, when it's all said and done, navigated the change of NIL and transfer portal, having success one place, like you said, Ramon, going to another high caliber program, continuing to have success, probably added to that, and is navigating a whole different business at his age. And it's different from what he came into as the college basketball game.
I think he deserves credit for it, and the university deserves credit for giving him resources to use.
100%.
Jim Larinaga at Miami did not have a school and an athletic department that cared enough to give him money to spend in NIL.
Great example.
We want to go local. Vanderbilt wasn't giving Jerry Stackhouse the resources that Mark Byington got.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be fair to Jerry, who probably his time was up anyway. But you think Jerry Stackhouse is looking at Vandy saying, really wish I had that money to spend.
Easily.
I wish that Anchor Impact Fund had been available for me to go get transfer portal guys.
Heck yeah.
Wasn't necessarily the case. That's an oversimplistic way to look at it. But from surface level, I think that's a fair criticism. Tennessee has given Rick Barnes everything he needs. They have given him facilities. They're upgrading Thompson Bowling Arena. Rick deserves credit. Danny White. It's the perfect marriage of all of those things that allows them to be the best program in SEC basketball over the last 8 years, where they lead the league in winning percentage and wins and all of those things.
I do. And that is the final point of it for me. It's just like, he could bow out and just whoever his successor is walks right into the same role. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's tired of it, because he has shown signs that he's adjusted to it. And his philosophy, in which a lot of teams are playing basketball right now, is still very much alive.
Right.
Like, and that's the coolest thing. And of course, the recent success of guys that he's had, Dalton Connect, Keon Johnson, Jaden Springer, like, there's a lot of guys at Tennessee that have flourished because of him. Kennedy Chandler, I wish he'd stayed one more, but do you get to Zakai?
Right.
If you know what I'm saying, keep Kennedy for another year.
Yep.
And McDonald's All-American. Like, Rick is checking every box except for the banner.
The natty.
And the one thing on that note, too, Brent Hubbs, when we asked him the same question a couple weeks ago, told us, like, he learned from Dean Smith, never make a decision on your career while it's still fresh. Like, don't decide 2 weeks after you get knocked out what you're going to do. So he feels like, Brent Hubbs felt like it's more likely that when Rick does hang it up, it's more likely to be in the summer or even closer to the fall than in March or April. So I doubt Rick Barnes even knows what his plan is going to be for next year. It is encouraging to hear from Austin, though, that the level of recruit he's going after signals his intent to stay beyond 2025. 615-737-1045. Kevin in Indy wants to talk about the Titans and trading back on the phones. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Hey, first off, I don't think trading back will actually be the best thing for the team because the quickest way to flip a franchise is getting a quarterback because it affects more people on the team than a defensive player or a two-way player. Because if you get Travis Hunter and he's a lockdown corner, he only accounts for one player that he eliminates. The quarterback affects the running backs, the receiver, the offensive line, and everything. So the quickest way to flip this franchise around is get a quarterback that the team can believe in, that'll get you people in the seats. And then other players will want to come. I mean, because, hell, Myles Garrett said, why would I want to come to Tennessee and y'all haven't even done anything? So for me personally, you stick and pick a quarterback. This whole trade back nonsense is crazy because you don't want to trade all your picks away next year to only move up to get a quarterback. So y'all have a good day, and that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
2013, Mike Borgonzi, the Chiefs, they took Eric Fisher when they could have had Geno Smith or E.J. Manuel.
Oh, geez.
And they decided to sign Alex Smith, made the team better.
Yeah.
Then they added Patrick Mahomes to that team, and he was able to be successful. I don't agree that just any quarterback automatically raises the level of your franchise. It could also lower the level of your franchise and make you worse if that quarterback is not a winner and is not good enough to be an NFL starter.
It's got to fit. And you know what's crazy about this entire conversation about us with the front office? We don't know what Coach Brian Callahan wants either in this quarterback, even if it is a bridge guy. Because Alex Smith was good to Andy Reid. 100% was good to him. And he pretty much set that franchise up for a lot of different things. I'm trying to look up right now his transactions to actually get him to Kansas City at the time. He signed, traded to Kansas City for a second-round pick and a 2014 second-round pick also. Then he also, the next year, signed a 4-year, in that time, $68 million deal. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're going to pay for it. Are you? Who's a comp to what Alex Smith was in that time? Derek Carr?
Yeah.
I mean, we're being completely honest about it. Derek Carr is the comp at this point. I don't know.
Sam Darnold's not far away.
He's not, but more expensive, though. Do you think he's that expensive, or is just?
We don't know exactly yet.
Yeah, we
right?
won't know.
I mean, we're assuming because he's the better quarterback in free agency at this point.
Well, everything's more expensive now, too, right?
Yeah, well. Yeah. There's more money coming in, too.
His average salary, Alex Smith's, when he signed in Kansas City, making $17 million average a year.
Not bad.
That's pretty rich for 2014 at that point. 4 years, $68 million in Kansas City. That's not cheap.
Yeah.
That's not far away from the $40 million Sam Darnold is going to get in 2025, even though it is double. I mean, the salary cap has also gone up considerably since then.
I'm trying to find a comp on inflation from $68 million in 2014. I'll get it. Don't worry. I'll get it in a minute.
You can look at it by just seeing the percent of the cap. What percent of the cap did Alex account for?
I see that. In 2014, I didn't see it. I'll find all that later.
Well, it brings up a great segue to the discussion we are about to have. Stoney Keeley has been dubbed the official draft expert of Ramon Kalen Will, football and other F words. We had him on the show yesterday for his first pre-draft visit with us, something we're going to make a regular occurrence. And he made a comment about Travis Hunter I thought was really interesting. Schematically, Travis Hunter is probably not a fit for Denard Wilson's defense. How much should the Titans care about fit with the number 1 overall pick? We'll dive into that next. RKW on 104.5 The Zone continues this morning in Hour 4, talking Titans and NFL drafts. And if you missed any of those topics, or if you want to hear Austin Price of VolQuest from early this morning at 6:20, as soon as the show ends, every minute of the show is posted wherever you download podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, 1045thezone.com. Search for Ramon, Kayla, and Will, and hit the follow button for us while you are there. So Stoney Keeley was on the show yesterday talking about NFL draft prospects, and we're going to go position by position with him leading up to the draft. But we started with the heavy hitters, with the big four, the fantastic four, as we're calling them here on the show. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. I thought he made an interesting point on Travis Hunter that I've not heard anywhere else. And the point was, Travis Hunter on paper isn't necessarily a perfect match for Denard Wilson's Titans defense.
I think the consensus is that he's going to play corner in the NFL with some packages on offense, and that sounds nice, but for me, it just depends on what you need. It depends on where the team is at, and personally, from what I've watched, I haven't wrapped up Travis Hunter. I still want to watch a couple more games of his, but from where I'm at, I think he has the talent to play wide receiver in the NFL and kind of be that Z receiver that you move around the formation and you just try to get the ball in his hands so that he can make some magic after the catch. I look at this Titan scheme and the way that Denard Wilson runs it, and I feel like Travis Hunter is more of a zone corner that doesn't play with a lot of physicality that Denard Wilson seems to like out of his outside corners. So to me, it's kind of like, okay, well, do you change the scheme or are we trying to square peg and round hole this with Travis Hunter? When in reality, the team needs some more speed on offense too. I think you could flip him around, play him primarily receiver with the Titans, and you've got a guy that could end up being the best receiver to come out of this draft class.
So that was Stoney Keeley yesterday on the show. That podcast also available wherever you download audio, talking NFL draft. Really good conversation with Stoney, who we feel like has a very bright future in this business and does a great job talking about the draft. How much does fit matter? Should that concern the Titans if you're going to play Travis Hunter at corner, that he's not really a fit on paper for who you are as a defense?
I want to go to an article that Champ Bailey obviously played both ways in college at Georgia, played for the Denver Broncos, superstar, right? We all know Champ Bailey. And he was quoted in this article this past year talking about what position he would play primarily. And he said, the corner is less dependent on structure around you. You are part of a defense, but there is a solitude of some of the job in assignments. He kind of went on to say, if you are on the offensive side of the ball, his work at receiver will be so dependent on the offensive structure, the quarterback, and the O-line, which right now we think about that. And to me, it sounds better for him to play, no matter what the structure is, in the defense, on the defensive side of the ball. Right. And I understand what Stoney is saying, and I did agree with him when he came on our show about this Denard Wilson attacking style defense. It is a little more aggressive. And I don't think he's the first name when I think of a Denard Wilson fit that would pop into my head. I do feel like, though, he can adapt. And I know he's a smaller cornerback, but when you look at L'Jarius Sneed, weight-wise.
He's 6'1", I think.
Exactly. Yeah. He's 6'1", 185 pounds, but I think he's actually put on some weight here. He's working in the offseason. You can tell he's put on some pounds. Like L'Jarius Sneed is 6'1", 192, just for reference. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., who we also think is a perfect fit for a Denard Wilson type of defense in terms of size, 5'10", 194 pounds. I think Travis Hunter could still adapt to a Denard Wilson style of defense regardless of his size, but is it a quick, it's an automatic fit? Probably not, but I think he has the work ethic to be a part of any type of style.
I think so, too. Listen to him talk. He's definitely got the confidence to do whatever you ask him to do. It's just that in Colorado, what talent did you have around him that allowed him to just play straight up man-to-man? Because that meant everybody else was going to get worked. So, yeah, I'm with you on that conversation, too, Kayla, that he's in his major. I'm looking at it right now.
What is it?
Anthropology.
That is hilarious. It's hilarious.
Why are you surprised?
He went to school for football.
Yeah.
He didn't go to play school.
I know.
Anthropology, man.
He doesn't need to be doing
Digging up
aerospace engineering.
dinosaurs,
He's
baby.
good. That's no problem.
Making more than professors
That's
anyway.
not a Travis Hunter problem. Welcome to college athletics.
I know. I just laughed because mine's sociology. There we go.
You guys know what anthropology is?
You turned out great.
Yes, the study of artifacts, correct?
Yeah,
That's archaeology.
Oh, so I was totally wrong on that.
Anthropology is the study of human history.
Human history. Well, there we go, man. That's on me.
Okay, history. Yeah, that was my bad too.
Either way, awesome, man. American education got to step it up. But look, you're right. He went to school to play football. This is what we're asking him to do. I do think here's the way I view Travis Hunter and everybody, like, well, how we're all splitting hairs on him. He reminds me of the conversation everybody now is having about Aaron Donald. You knew he was good. You knew he could play. You knew the accolades followed him. You knew that, hey, he can play. He might not be top 10, but boy, he'll be special. Just get him in the building. Now Aaron Donald's a walking gold jacket right now. If he is that talent and he's been a winner his entire friggin' life, and you believe that you can make something of him, whether it be wide receiver or DB, the conversation would be just get him in the building. If we're having that conversation, I feel better about Travis Hunter than I do Abdul Carter. Only reason I feel good about Abdul Carter, we're talking about non-quarterbacks for the Titans, is I think he can have an immediate effect on the game. Meaning, if he's the rusher we think he is, right, the quarterback is going to go to the ground.
He gets to the quarterback, right? He might not be the quarterback, but he can get to it.
Exactly.
Edge rusher is more of a premium position where it is more impactful to the result of the game.
Fast.
Than corner.
100.
I think the philosophical question, though, that I'm also asking here is, would you rather draft what this coaching staff needs for their scheme to be successful? Or do you want the better player? Because what's the guarantee that this coaching staff is here in a year?
Give me the better player.
Better player, because I think a better player can fit in anything.
Okay, well, to that point, if I'm Brian Callahan, I'm saying, whoa, hang on a minute. I need this type of player. You're just going to go for the other type because you don't believe in me? It's a double-edged sword, because if you give Brian Callahan and his staff his type of quarterback, and I think the same conversation can be had about Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. I don't see Cam Ward fitting very well into Brian Callahan's style of offense. I think schematically, Shedeur Sanders is the better fit. But why should the Titans mortgage their future on a coach that has only gone 3-14? I mean, either way you spin it, it is a really challenging proposition for this front office. Yeah. Would you rather give this coaching staff what they need to be successful, or give the next coaching staff what they need to be successful?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you got to focus on what you have now, right? But you also have to focus on the future, because that's what matters when the stadium opens up. You're exactly right. And I do feel like they have made it clear this is their front office for the foreseeable future. Yeah. That's what they've made clear.
The front office is more
I'm talking about the coaching staff.
No, I know, but that's my whole point. So if anyone's going to go next, it's going to be Brian Callahan. And I don't feel, as crappy as this sounds, I don't feel like they're feeling like they have to owe him anything at that point. I think it's more the front office that they say, this is the player we want.
Well, with that being said, also, does Miss Amy want to have, if we're speaking about the front office, does she want to have, the only thing that might be, one of the main things that could save Coach Callahan other than winning, does she want to have that many people outside the building getting sent mailbox money? That's the other part of the business. Like, they are rich as heck.
We said that about firing Rand Carthon, and she did that. So,
But at this point, how many will it be out there? J-Rob's off the books.
I don't think it matters.
You don't think it matters?
No,
I think it does.
We thought it mattered this time last year.
I mean, Vrabel's off
we
the
thought
books.
it kept Rand Carthon healthy and safe. It didn't. I mean, that family and that owner hates the narrative out there that they are cheap. Hates it, because despite everything they've done to build a stadium, to do things for this city, there are still fans listening to the sounds of our voice right now who think the Titans are cheap. That is not rooted in fact. The Titans have not been cheap in a really long time. Amy Adams Strunk's Titans have never, in fact, been cheap, to be honest with you.
Hers had. No.
But I think that that family, and she's personally, I don't blame her. They take that personally, the fact that people still think they're cheap.
But a fool and his money will soon depart, too. I wouldn't do it just for the sake of saying, look at me throw big money at folks. The reason I say it, at least with Coach Callahan, is this. He's young enough that you think like a player that you can make him better. And if I surround him with better operations and it seems like they're trying to do that, then it should be good. What I do know is this. They got a lot of veterans on the defensive side of the ball that he wants to help. I mean, that can help him win. It's a matter of figuring out this offense and his quarterback. I must say, as much as Coach Callahan is somewhat on a simmering seat right now, he should be given a full mulligan into this 2025 season. Like, his losing to me...
I think his mulligan was last year.
His losing to me shouldn't start until this year. Like, his record, at least from the perception of the fan base and the ownership, should start this year because Will Levis was just that bad to me.
I think he was part of it, too, though.
He contributed to Will Levis being bad.
And it does not matter. He is part of Will Levis.
We're having the same conversation. It wasn't his quarterback. This one, he at least gets to put his hands on. He took this job with the assumption that he will be able to make a guy that was incapable of being better good.
But we don't know if they're taking the quarterback. That's the other thing.
They're going to have to take one. I heard Coach, I'm on this Coach Saban tip too much right now, but he said, in the history of coaching, I've never had the idea that I can make a bad player good. I worked my butt off to recruit the best of the best. And that has to be part of the conversation. We're talking about what Coach Callahan is looking for, too. Like, the idea that Will Levis is going to be a good quarterback, yeah. I can believe I can do that and have enough confidence, but making him good when he's just simply bad? We saw Kenny Pickett get into the Super Bowl at the end of the game, and he had one pass. You know where that pass went? Into the friggin' dirt. Why? Because he's not a good quarterback. Period.
Yeah, but if he doesn't get to go and really get his quarterback, look, a guy that's coming over as a free agent isn't his quarterback when it's all said and done. It's not. The only thing that I think is his quarterback is if they go and draft someone that will be immediately attached to him. And that's the only way you can really say, like, that guy is Brian Callahan's quarterback this next year.
If that's the case, then he can't claim Joe Burrow, Peyton Manning, Andy Reid can't claim.
Head coach there.
But what I'm saying is this: he gets an opportunity to at least pick a guy that he likes the traits of this time. At least mentally, he'll know what he'll get out of the guys that he brings in.
That's what I'm saying, though, Mode. If he doesn't get that opportunity because they don't draft a quarterback, he can't really attach that to a veteran quarterback that they're just bringing over.
Why not?
Because they're already developed.
Well, Peyton was.
Sure, but they might be developed with the traits that he likes. I honestly don't agree with either of you, to be quite honest. Because I don't think
is even better.
Because first of all, I don't think he gets a full mulligan for anything. Nobody in the NFL gets a full mulligan because he also contributed to Will Levis not having success.
That's why last year was his mulligan.
That's what I'm saying. Last year was kind of the mulligan, but again, like, I know he didn't pick Will Levis, but Will Levis being bad is not 100% just a Will Levis problem.
Right.
It's a first-year head coach problem. It's a first-time play caller problem. It's an offensive line problem. It's a wide receivers that didn't want to be here problem. Looking at you, DeAndre Hopkins. It's beyond just Will Levis throwing the ball to the other team. Like, Brian Callahan is not totally innocent in Will Levis's failure as the Titans quarterback in 2024. But I do think that whoever they pick, it's on him. If that's Sam Darnold, if you spend Amy Adams-Strunk's money and you convince her to do that and you convince the organization to do that, that's your guy. Whether that guy's 21 and just finished taking math classes, or whether that guy's a free agent, you are staking your reputation to whoever plays quarterback next.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think he gets another mulligan this year, no matter what happens at quarterback, unless you make that offense better. And it starts with the quarterback. And if the offense doesn't get better, he gone.
It's a very unfair league, to y'all's point.
Yeah.
But I don't think this franchise is in a position to be unfair moving forward for the next, 3 years, though. Like, you might just have to eat your peas and potatoes and just sit there until you finish your dinner with this one.
And sometimes I wish that opportunity would be given more so to these coaches to stay longer. But it is a what have you done for me lately league, you know?
What's a fireable offense, then, for Brian Callahan this season? What would it take for you to say, yeah, he's not the guy. He's not a head coach?
The offense not putting up more points and them winning even just one more or two more games.
If you go out and get a veteran quarterback or a rookie quarterback and they show the exact same thing they had this year, that to me is more fireable than him getting a rookie and winning 6 games. That shows me improvement. If he go get a vet and it looks like Will Levis, the flow, and just true. This is the other side for Coach Callahan. The entire makeup of the team. Like, Andy Reid is an offensive guy, but he's facilitated his coaches to have a damn good defense, too.
You said you remember you heard him at the end of the year. He said, I need to do a better job next year of being a part of the defense.
The defense, yes.
He said that. And not like he's putting up game plans, but visiting them during the week and going in on some of these meetings. He admitted firsthand he didn't do enough of that either as a head coach.
If they don't get better, it's a fireable offense, win-wise.
What does that mean?
If they don't get more than 3 wins, it's fireable offense.
And I just think even 4 wins is disgusting.
It's better.
It is. Depends on how they get there. I mean, again, we're having a conversation that's very difficult to project because we don't know who gets hurt, who they sign, how much they're saying behind the scenes. This is a 2-year plan, and we know we might stink this year, but it's going to be worth it because we're going to trade assets. Like, we don't know how they're going to get there. So, again, it's a challenging discussion to have, but I believe that if they don't get better, that'll be it. Yeah. If they go 3-14 again, you're hiring a head coach.
No doubt about that. Yeah. I just wonder what's the give. Is it 2 more wins? Is it 1 more win?
It just depends on how you get there.
Brian one also said, so, the team's getting blown out by, Patriots game will be heavy next year, despite the situation.
Oof.
That one.
Right?
Mike Vrabel coming back.
Vrabel returns.
It will be heavy.
It's going to be like the Texans game for this organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a pride thing, ego thing.
So I will say this, with everything I said about him having 2025 is his first year, I do think the pot is simmering. I do think he's on the clock, but I do think he deserves a fair shake if he shows improvement in coaching and competitively losing. The same thing we've said about the Lady Vols or the Vols football team. Can you competitively lose games and shock 1 or 2 opponents? The big shocker this year was the Houston game for the Titans, right?
It's just they didn't take the momentum when that was needed to win some of those winnable games after, and that's what made me kind of worried.
They consistently found ways to lose 1-score games in different ways.
Yeah.
Which is a major red flag for all parties involved. That's why their GM is new.
That's why the GM is new.
Because they had to fire someone.
Sometimes they lost from special teams. Sometimes they lost because of offense. Sometimes they lost because of defense. And they got blown out a lot. Recipe to get fired. That simple. Bada bing, bada boom.
By the way,
to quote Michael Scott.
What a quiet exit it was for Colt Anderson, too. They just hired a new guy.
That was a really weird situation because they had supposedly offered him a job within the organization. And I don't know if necessarily that was just not something he wanted to do, if he had offers somewhere else possibly. But I do think they wanted to keep him in some capacity.
Scooby on Twitter says, I believe if he doesn't have 7 wins, he is gone. Yeah, but again, how do you get to 6 wins? If you win 4 of your last 6 games or you win 5 of your last 6 games, then you can give a proof of concept to say, hey, this team went on a run to finish the season. So not all 6 and 11s are created equally. If they are good to start the season and then they just fall apart, yeah, maybe 6 and 11 does get him fired. But if you do what Detroit did right before they got relevant and go on a run over like Mike Keith, the new voice of the Vols, told us all last season, the arrow needs to be pointing up.
Yeah.
You can go 6 and 11 and the arrow can be pointing up at the end of the season. So I don't think it's that simple.
I see somebody said, Dylan says Mike Vrabel is going to dog walk us. So he also has a very talented young quarterback, too.
Yeah, and he also hired a lot of the same staff.
Well, is that, that's true.
To wide receivers coach Todd Downing. Who's he going to coach up?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Vrabel doesn't run. Doesn't
maybe Travis Hunter.
Vrabel doesn't throw the football either.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. I'll wait on that one. He didn't redo much over there.
615-737-1045, the number. We will hit the headlines on the way out. Take a look at the slate of hoops tonight. They are very good. Coming up. RKW 104.5 The Zone to wrap it up the show, wrapping up hour number 3. Appreciate Austin Price waking up early with us, and appreciate many of you reacting on the phones this morning as well. Kent on YouTube says, I think Tavondre Sweat's brother Josh is going to be a Titan. I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not, Ken.
They are not brothers.
Not related.
Not.
Are they not cousins?
Nope.
I don't think so.
They're not related.
I thought somebody wrote that in the free agency preview. Let me double check.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel really mean now.
We talked about this maybe a week ago or so, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
Because there is like the AI when you search on Google says that there is. Like that they're related.
Uh-huh.
But I do not believe that they are.
The best way to always look for that is on the Titans bio page. They have everything usually right there in terms of connections.
Oh, I got to talk to Pittsburgh because they never put my brother Renardo, who's in the NFL, on my bio.
What's Pittsburgh doing, man?
That's crazy.
Titans do a good job on that website with that kind of stuff,
They
by
do.
the way. They have some really good facts, so that's why I always find out stuff on there.
That is another thing that has been the detriment of information finders is this new AI thing on Google. It is so bad. I'm about to go back to Ask Jeeves. I'm about to change. And I have been a loyal Googleite for a long time, but I am going to switch off it because it's nabbed me, I think, 3 or 4 times now, looking stuff up, and it's like, oh, here you go. No need to dig. Here's the information for you. I got it.
Sure.
Yeah, no, they're not related.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on the
But
bio.
again, when you Google it, it says that they are. So I don't blame any of you for being misled.
Right. AI just taking you down a whole different road.
Yeah, I swear somebody wrote that in their free agency preview, and they probably got by the same people as we did.
Yeah.
I know. Anyway.
Yeah.
He is nicknamed Meatloaf, though, like we've all said.
We do that.
If you wanted a fact about him.
We do that.
I think Baldinger's trying to give him a new name, too. What is he calling them? It was some
Baldy
name.
is?
Yeah, Baldy was trying to give him a new name.
T-Pain.
T-Pain, that's what it was.
He brings the pain.
I actually kind of like that.
I don't think Tavondre does, though.
No?
No, I think he came out was just like, nah, I'm good
He's
with just
good with
Meatloaf. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or T-Sweat.
Or T-Sweat. Either way, just don't call me trash.
I just want more good players that are worthy of having nicknames.
Same.
That's what I want.
That point right there.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, dude, you go get
3.
Travis.
What would we nickname him?
Who, Travis? You just one name is all you want
Trav?
for him. Just Trav. Just
I'd
like
call
what you
Trav.
need is like Revis. You need
Sure.
Sauce. You need Travis.
Just let it happen organically.
Jalen, right? What are the Ramsey?
The
like,
Hunter.
You need something. Like, just let the play name themselves at this point.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Tennessee Tickle Monsters.
Oh,
God.
God.
We were close.
I remember when that all
we were
happened.
close.
What?
We were real close on that
Was
one.
that your show where
Yeah,
that
it was
all
my
came?
show that did that.
That's
Me and
what
Jason.
I thought.
This show.
When they started
Was
the
it,
radio
did it
program.
start on this?
When they started to refute it, is when things went sideways.
I do remember a time I filled in one day on that show, and that was a subject.
That was the
Tennessee
subject.
Tickle Monsters.
Tennessee Tickle
It's.
Monsters.
I mean, we have the Purple People Eaters. It's just like that. Anyway,
now we just
again. I want a defensive line worthy of a nickname again,
Yeah.
which we don't currently.
For real.
We might need to wait a second on that one.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be wild. This is gonna be a very interesting next month or so. Combine, I can't wait to hear what's
Combine's up
gonna
in
be
a
said
couple
there.
weeks, guys.
Will they throw if y'all say right now?
No,
I don't think so.
I would like for them to.
I now want them to. I do. You remember at first I was just like, no, they don't need to. They need
Keep
to.
hearing about
I
both
would
of them
like
are
them to,
alphas and dogs. All right, then be a competitor and prove it.
It's
I
been
wanna see
kind
it
of
now.
quiet with them, too. I mean, I know we got the stuff out of Shador
Where's
earlier.
Cam Ward?
Yeah, but Cam's kind of been quiet. I'd like to see him come out, say something.
It's a good
something.
quiet though, because everybody else is speaking around. And Travis though is getting paid bukus of bread to do his podcast.
For sure.
Yeah, he is. He even
And
went
by
to
the
Radio
way,
Row.
somebody who said that he was immature on the chat earlier.
Who?
What are we talking
Travis?
about? Travis Hunter immature.
You must not know him.
Just because of his girlfriend? Let's not attach the young man directly to that. That's a complicated problem, relationships.
Tonight in college basketball, Auburn down the road,
Yeah.
Memorial Gym.
They need a bounce back.
Vandy fans should show up for this game. They're still your team beat Texas Saturday. I'm going to keep banging this drum until somebody listens. Tons of empty seats. Texas in town got the win.
Really?
And Auburn's probably the second biggest SEC fan base in the city of Nashville, so I would expect a takeover in Memorial Gym tonight for Auburn basketball fans who are, of course, rabid about Bruce Pearl and their team, as they should be. Florida, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Kentucky. Those are your 6 p.m. games tonight. Auburn, Vandy, Florida in Starkville, and Tennessee and Rupp.
Good stuff. It's always good on the SEC slate, man.
Alabama, Texas after that. Georgia, Texas A&M as well. You guys think Tennessee gets revenge on Kentucky tonight?
Yes, I'm rolling with that one.
What would the spread be in your mind?
In my mind, 5.
Let's do
for Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah.
Let's do 6.5.
It's still Rupp. Tennessee's only favored by 2.5, but they are favored against Kentucky. Big one tonight for the Vols. I'm sure the rest of the shows will have much more on that as the day continues. Buck Rising Show up next. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. You Commodore fans, get over to Memorial Gym, man. The tickets are like $80 over there, man. Go support your squad because they're good.
Because Auburn will take over.
Absolutely. But remember, Twitter fingers in your mic. Always hot.